Alright, howdy there, youngins. Silver Mongoose here, back again. And today I'm going to be doing something different. I'm starting, I don't know if you want to call it a new series of videos or whatever. I might only do one, I might do two, doesn't matter. We're just going to let happen. And it's basically going to be called Gaming Favorites. And the concept of this is that I'm going to be talking to people, not necessarily YouTubers, but it could be people I know, it could be a family member, it could be a friend I used to play video games with, or, like I said, it could be a YouTuber like today's guest. And basically what we're going to do is just chat about something that's our favorite, or near favorite, something we love in the video game world. So it could be a specific game, a specific genre, a game series, a console, a company, a soundtrack, whatever. And it's important to note that they don't have to be experts in this. You can know almost nothing about this, but it still be your favorite. And it's basically just going to be really casual. We're just going to chat it up. And it's going to be more timeless content. And what I mean by that is there's going to be no news, no what we've been playing. We're not going to talk about systems like the 360 or the Wii that are still in production because things can still change. We're going to talk about, older stuff. So if you watch this video in a year, or listen to this video in a year, the content won't be out of date. It'll pretty much still be the same. It can go anywhere from 10 minutes to an hour, to longer, to shorter. There's no real plans right now. We're just going to let fly, let have it, and just see what happens. So, today, who I'm going to be talking to is somebody that you people might be familiar with. It is Crow from the Roadshow. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, my good friend. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty okay. It was a pretty rough start getting this going, but here we are.
Yeah, well, is the video working? Can you see me? Can you see me in the video camera right here?
No, I can't.
This is weird, man. I thought being on YouTube would be a lot more different than this.
Yeah. Yeah, you know what? I could make just an audio thing, but then I need to start a website and all that. So you know what? I'm just throwing audio up on YouTube, and if you don't like it, well, you don't have to listen. Because you know what? This is really for me and you. This is for us. We're going to enjoy this conversation whether it works or not, whether it ends up on YouTube, and whether people like it or not. Hopefully they like it, and hopefully they enjoy it, but, if they don't...
Sounds like a plan, man.
Yeah. So, today's topic, what we're going to be speaking about, is classic adventure games. So, not necessarily point and click, but some of those more classic games, point and click, text adventures, just things like that. And we're also probably going to go into a longer discussion more about your favorite game in this series. And this isn't your absolute favorite type of games, is it?
I'm sorry, you cut out for a second there.
Oh, did I?
Yeah.
Interesting. So this isn't, what I said, it's not your absolute favorite type of game, is it? I think you mentioned that this is one of your favorite genres?
Yeah, it's pretty close. It's I like a lot of different kinds of games for a lot of different reasons, and as far as enjoying and becoming enveloped in a story, this would be one of my favorite platforms with it. I'd say this and RPGs, like JRPGs, are just about tied, and they both pull ahead at different points for different reasons. That's about all I can say, pretty much.
Right. So why don't we start by, why don't you tell me a little bit about, just a brief, your gaming history, what you started playing with, and how that led to either your first game or you really falling in love with this series? Or this type of game?
Well, I honestly, when I think about back when I first started gaming, I remember I had an Apple II, and if I remember correctly, one of the very first games that I played on there was a text adventure game called Wizard's Warehouse. Okay. And for the time, it was a really revolutionary text adventure because it was all controlled by text, but there was a graphical interface, so it was kind of like transferring between the graphical adventure and the text adventure. So it was kind of a buffering agent, in my opinion, because I never really. With the exception of a few really good ones, like Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy and stuff, I never really got into the straight-up text adventures as heavily as some people did. Mm-hmm. And that might just be my age, because, born in '83, I was, kind of in that area where the video game market was it was crashing, just rebuilding itself, and graphics were more or less the hype of the time, as opposed to, the adventures and the stories and stuff. But it definitely still attracted me.
Right.
And but yeah, Wizard's Warehouse, it was a wild game, because you played the apprentice of a wizard, and you were sent to his warehouse to get a list of things. And you basically, just like any other text adventure, you have commands north, south, east, west, pick up, get, things such as that. There's also combat, very loose combat, where you can hit things and it would tell you what damage it would do and things like that. But there was also this neat little window above it that gave you a graphical interface. So in case you lose track of your directions or something like that, and you didn't feel like, typing in east and then find out you're back on the hallway you started, you could, you could click on the door.
That's cool.
And that was a little bit, it was nice. I can't even tell you how many hours I spent playing that game, like literally probably months when you all added up.
Mm-hmm.
And between that and Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, that was pretty much my intro into the adventure game series. And I think it was a really good one, because Wizard's Warehouse was a very Douglas Adams-ish story as well. Only it took place in more of an Earth atmosphere with wizards and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
I think that's pretty Douglas Adams-esque.
Yeah. To say the least. But yeah, I mean, they were infuriating. Don't get me wrong. It's not like I just started playing them and I was just like, oh man, this is the best thing ever. I'm so good at these. I mean, you really have to think, and a lot of time was spent outside of the game, writing things down, or writing down maps, like drawing up maps of the areas that you were going through. And it was this crossover kind of era between, you had the pen and paper adventure games and role-playing games of the previous era, and then now you're coming into computers and stuff, and it was a really neat time where you weren't tied directly into the machine, but you weren't tied directly to the pen and paper either. It was a nice crossover.
And I bet you spent a lot of time thinking about it, even when you weren't there. You're probably at school or at work or something, and you're thinking, damn, how do I get past that part?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Totally. Especially with Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, because I played it when I was a kid, and then when I got into maybe around like middle school or whatever, I busted out the old Mac again. Mm-hmm. And I had it set up in my room, and to me it's very much like the setup I have now. I've got computers all over, and they're crap computers, but my theory is that all of them on together, their powers combined makes one computer. And very, very much the same thing. I put it up for looks, and I eventually started playing like my old games on it. Like I had Missile Command, and I'm trying to think. I think we had Space Invaders on it, and a lot of old arcade games and stuff. But these text adventures, my friends would come over, and I'd say, you want to do something really crazy, and I'd pop one of these things in, and they'd be like, what the hell is this, man? We're not doing this. And then basically about 20 minutes later, they're like, okay, let me get at the keyboard. Let me try.
And you're doing it wrong. You don't know how to spell.
Yeah, Hitchhiker's Guide, man. Like, me and several friends would just sit around at lunch. And obviously, when we're doing this, we're like the mutants of the school or whatever. Yeah. But we're theorizing that, okay, if you take the subatomic vector plotter and the towel and you combine them and stuff like that. So it was good times, man. Definitely different than adventure games nowadays, but still, it had its enveloping aspects as well. It definitely wrapped you up, and I think that's what I like the most about adventure games is you can kind of disappear into a game, which you can do with a lot of other games. But for me, I'm one of those guys that when I read a book, I get pictures in my head.
Yeah.
So I'll be reading a paragraph, and I can literally go off into a daydream about what this looks like. So doing a text adventure or any sort of adventure for that aspect really just gives the imagination just enough room to just become epic,
Yeah, because, it depends on the person, right? Like you said, you can imagine these things. But someone with a really poor imagination, if they're playing just a text adventure, man, they're going to find that boring. But someone like you who can fill in the gaps, like that, again, it's kind of the same concept as Dungeons & Dragons, right? It's like you just let your imagination go. And, If
very
you
much
have
so.
the imagination, you can do it.
You almost need a little bit more imagination for a text adventure because, back in the day when we were playing D&D, like,
You're with
especially
other people.
Yeah, and if you're with a group of people who are taking it seriously, your dungeon master or whatever is looking you straight in the eyes and he's saying, like, your name is Dragmar, you're a 300-year-old dwarf. And he's giving you a background of your story, but not only is it that, there's human emotion, and there's, as simple as they are, like I'm doing them right now, like hand gestures and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, me too. I'm flailing around.
Yeah, there's so much that a straight-up text adventure doesn't offer you that you have to fill in the blanks, and it's kind of refreshing to go back and play them. And actually, I don't know if you or your listeners or viewers know this, but you can actually go on the BBC website right now, and there are, I believe, 2 to 3 different versions of the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy text adventure.
Oh my god, thank you. I was actually going to ask you that. I wrote it down because that was probably one of the earliest text games, wasn't it? Hitchhikers?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, because I remember I got that.
There was that. There was Adventure, I think, too. I think that's what it was called. And then, like, Colossal Caves and stuff like that.
And Oregon Trail was pretty early, too, eh?
Yep.
That was, like, 1972 or something. It's so old.
Yeah, definitely.
I got the 1001 video games you have to play before you die. And, like, right at the beginning, I think it's, like, the second or third game, they have the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy text game. And I'm like, I'm a big fan of the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Like, I'm one of these people that I liked it before it was cool in that short period a couple of years ago. Like I loved the first book's the best, and they all go downhill from there. But I love the humor, and I've listened to the the original radio series probably 6 or 7 times now, and I've I've even watched the original show, which is horrible, and to get through that,
I love it.
It's so bad.
I go to sleep to that, man. Like that and Spaceballs. Those are like, that's like, I have those movies memorized.
Well, maybe I did you listen to the radio series?
Yeah, I have that.
Okay.
I actually just discovered the radio series maybe about 2 years ago, and I think to make up for lost time, I've probably listened to it about 6 or 7 times as well. The complete series, and.
Yeah.
There's so much, you know what I think I like the most about Douglas Adams is the lack of continuity.
Oh, yeah.
Just complete and utter disregard for any sort of continuity. And it's kind of cool. I like it.
And Marvin. God, I love Marvin.
Yeah. Life. Don't tell me about life.
Don't talk to me about life. Did your planet have oceans? Oh, yes. Great rolling oceans. Sounds horrible. Can't stand
Can't bear.
Yeah, can't bear oceans.
Can't bear oceans. God.
Oh, yeah, I love Marvin. Have you heard Marvin's songs? He's got like 3 or 4 songs that they recorded.
Now I lay me down to sleep. Something like that.
No, or maybe. I don't know. I don't remember that one.
In the radio series or something like that?
No, they recorded like actual songs. There's like Marvin, I Love You, and there's a couple other ones. You have to hear them. It's like from the original radio voice actor, and he's just basically they all tell a story. One of them is just about how his life sucks, obviously. Another one is about how like someone programmed a message that they love him into his head or something. And anyways, they're hilarious. So you have to listen to that. But people right now who don't care about Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, they're not caring about this, so we'll move on. But I really wanted to play that game because it was inside that 1001 video games you need to play before you die, and I love Douglas Adams, so I really wanted to check that out. So I'm glad you mentioned that, because I was going to ask you after we stopped recording where I could find that, but now
you can find it. It's free. They had a contest a few years ago where people got to submit their own Flash-based graphical interfaces to it as well. So it's not quite the same as Wizard's Warehouse, where you could click around in the graphical interface or whatnot.
Yeah.
It's more or less just a scene. So, with the description of they describe the Vogon hold, or the hold in the Vogon ship and stuff like that. And with that, you get a picture that as you turn and move in the room, the picture changes a little bit too, and it gives you the one thing that actually is an interface is the inventory. But there's like 2 or 3 different skins on there, so one of them looks like you're playing the game right out of the Hitchhiker's Guide, which is
awesome.
Obviously, yeah, it's too cool. You have to check that out, and it's hard. The nice thing is I believe there's like a hint through section built right into the game.
Yeah.
So you don't have to be brutally. You don't have to play the thing 300 times to figure it out like we did back in the day.
Well, that's what you have to do nowadays. Because honestly, if you give someone a text adventure, even me, and it's really, really difficult, you're not going to spend that much time on it. You're going to get frustrated and you're going to quit. Because I look behind me and I see like 500 games, and I'm like, you know what? I could be playing any of those, and they're all way easier. And I know there's a huge amount of satisfaction of doing it, but you're just like, you know what? I only have so much time in a day now that I'm an adult. And I can't spend it all staring angrily at these couple text words with the question mark blinking, asking you to type something in.
Or sitting here with my graph paper trying to figure out how many spaces too far east I went in the maze of illusion or whatever the hell you're stuck in at the time. And yeah, it's definitely... It's one of those things where you can appreciate it for the time that it came out and for what it was. Yeah. Nowadays, the only text adventure game that I do play is Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and the only other one that I would play, which I haven't found a copy of it yet, and I've found very few people who actually know about that game, but that Wizard's Warehouse game, that was a big one for me. And I think another one, and it wasn't a text adventure. I don't know if you've ever heard of Dark Castle. That's another really good one on the old Mac.
No, like I never, I wasn't one of those guys that had a computer back in the day. I had like our first computer, and it was really out of date by the time we got it, but it was like I think it was like an like a 1978 like IBM or something, and the only games on there was like one game, which we only found it on the computer like once, so I don't even remember what it was. And there was another game which was like a French math game, so you'd be like going through a castle, and it would be like, this is 1979 graphics, so it's very you have to use your imagination. And the screen is all like yellow and black, and you're like going through here, and like a spider will come down, and it'll be like, whoa, what's 8 times 6? You better tell me before the spider gets you. And like,
oh no!
So I didn't have any of those old games, and a lot of these old games are on those old computers, and like the Commodore 64 and stuff. And a lot of those games just faded into obscurity because it's like, I would imagine it's pretty hard to like rip like a Commodore 64 game like onto like a modern day computer and like get it to play or something. I don't know, but I would assume it's hard.
Yeah, it's a process. It's you basically you have to do, I don't know what you would call it, like, I just call it hardware stepping, which is basically, you take like a 5.5 floppy, and you copy whatever you needed. Let's say you had something let's say you wanted to go from like one of those 8K memory cartridges to a USB drive.
Yeah.
And so you'd take one of those memory cartridges or whatever, and you'd find a computer that has, that slot and a 5.5 floppy, or at least, a ribbon cable to a 5.5 floppy, and you copy it that way. You take that and you bring it to a machine that has a, 3.25 floppy or whatever, and, you keep going up until you get to a machine that can read floppies and can burn onto CDs, and then once you get to the CD point, you pretty much got it made, but...
For now.
Yeah, you have to do hardware stepping, which is you got to have the hardware. That's the whole thing.
Yeah.
So thankfully, a lot of people have already done that. You can find it online.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have to start finding a list of like really good old text adventures, because honestly, I haven't played text adventures that much, but from what I've played, I don't know, it was probably like 2 or 3 years ago, I started getting really intrigued by really older stuff, because I remember in high school, like my friend, he's a big collector. He's like an actual collector, in the sense that he collects tons of stuff and collects stuff just for collector's value as well, which is something I don't really do. If I'm not going to play it and enjoy it, unless it has something really quirky or cool about it, I'm usually not going to get it. But he had I think it was an Atari or an Intellivision and stuff, and he tried to show it to me, and I was just like, I'm really not interested in playing these games. They all suck. But like probably 2 or 3 years ago, I started like really getting intrigued by this older stuff, and like I got an appreciation for it. Like, I put myself in that time frame, you know, and it really helps you appreciate it. And then I started thinking, like, I want to play some of these old text games. And then I was also on the Strong Bad website. And he has a couple of them, Dungeon Man or something. And the
Wait, he has text adventures?
Yeah, he has a couple of them. He's like Dungeon Man 1 and 3, and I can't find 2. But the first one is basically all text. And then the second one is text, but it has graphics, but not interactive graphics. So there'll be like a picture of like a forest with a log, and you're like, look under log, you know, and stuff like that. And they're pretty short, but they're pretty fun. And I played those, and I'm like, man, I really want to play old text adventures now. I played a couple.
Did you ever see his episode on video games and like, you know, what he would make if he made a video game?
Maybe. Is that the one with the anime guy?
No, I think that's if he were to make a cartoon. But right. He does an episode where he talks about text adventures, and he's like, okay, the first thing that I would get with a text adventure, well, you need to, you know, you find yourself in a cave.
Oh yeah, yeah,
it's just like, your exits are north, west, south, and Dennis.
Yeah.
Like, what?
Yeah, that's how it starts, the first one. And you have to get, I think the goal of the one he said, it's like to get a chalice or to get a cup or something, and that's the goal of the first one.
Ye flask.
Oh, yeah, take ye flask. You cannot take ye flask.
You cannot take ye flask.
Oh yeah, and if you start, I think in the third game, you're like, right at the beginning, you can type in, I figured this out myself, take ye flask, and it's just like, you think ye funny, aren't you? Or something like that.
Nice.
And I think it might actually kill you, but I'm not sure. I played it a long time ago.
I am definitely going to go play those. That's awesome.
Yeah, check those out. I
thought you were going to talk about Strong Bad's cool game for attractive people.
No, I haven't. I haven't played that. They're a little bit too overpriced for what I've seen.
I've held off on buying the last one just because. Yeah, I mean the hype for me died out about the 4th episode, and.
But were they okay?
Yeah, they're good. As far as, let's see, they're not particularly challenging adventure games to go through. So if you're like let's say if you've completed the entire like Myst series, I don't know, it's more than a trilogy now, isn't it?
There's 4 Mysts, I think.
Yeah, 4 of them. Okay, I haven't played the 4th one yet, which is like sacrilege. But that's another one where, you know, Myst can get old too. Any type of game, you know, you play 8 shooters back to back. You can get tired of shooters.
Yeah.
Play 8 platformers back to back. And it's good to have variety in your games. So, I mean, I like adventure games, but I like a lot of other types of games too. And I think adventure games are something that I more or less go into when I really need a true escape, as opposed to, you know, like I don't invite my friends over to play Myst, you know.
But that's a huge party game at my house.
Yeah. Doing shots every time.
You get stuck.
I don't even know what you. Yeah. Oh God, dude.
You wouldn't last. Like you wouldn't even get off the island, the first island. I don't think.
Yeah, you just have to hire a cab company to just keep stopping by your house and picking people up to bring them to the hospital to get their stomachs pumped.
Yeah.
That's.
Yeah. I wanna start talking about Myst in a sec, but I'm just gonna stop recording and then start recording again, just because we've been recording for over 20-some minutes, and I think that a couple programs I've read, they're like, after 25 minutes we will stop. We'll just put white noise over your recording. So just in case that happens, I'm just gonna stop recording and start again.
Cool.
Yeah, I actually played Myst on the first time I ever played Myst was on the DS. There was a port to the DS, and that's a game, like, if I would have played it probably 4 years ago, I would have put it down immediately. But now I really have, you know, more of appreciation for that kind of stuff. And honestly, I really got sucked into it. Even though I found it so hard, and even though it was on that tiny little DS screen, I found it really engrossing. I think, you know why I found it engrossing? Is because it was so boring. If that makes any sense. Like, I found it so... Because there's not even music, for the most part, from what I remember. It's just, like, bird noises and, like, the sound of, like, water and stuff. And I think that, for me, like, that made it more real and kind of dreamlike. Well, because I've honestly had dreams where, like, you wake up in a place that's like, it's familiar, but it's also very different, and there's nobody around, and you're just kind of poking around to see what's going on. And I really wanted to know what was going on this island, which was pretty much nothing, but also a lot at the same time, you know?
Yeah, and that's kind of a typical. Well, I guess that's one of the things that Myst really pioneered, or at least the makers of it did. I mean, because they did. Well, no, they did Myst, and then I remember I played the Manhole before I played Myst, and it was surely because I was about the right age for it. And I don't know if you know what the Manhole is.
No.
It was made by, I believe it was made by Ubisoft. Don't quote me on that, but well, I suppose you're recording me, but
no quotes going on here, because honestly, we're just talking, and if I say that Myst came out in 1983, yeah, it's really wrong, but who cares? It doesn't matter. This isn't my buyer's guide / review. I don't have to be correct. If people think I'm wrong, that's fine. So
right on.
Manhole.
Well, yeah, I mean, with the Manhole came out a little bit after the Myst, and it was basically an open world thing, very similar to Myst, only it was for kids. The graphical style was very similar, and it was more or less there was no point to it, at least as far as I could tell. I don't have the game anymore, and I kind of wish I did, just to go through knowing what I know about adventure games now and see if there is a point to it. But you essentially,
you just don't get it.
Yeah, it's
it's too artsy.
It's essentially at the time, from what I understand, it's just a walk around interactive world. There is no conflict ever introduced. Therefore, there's no resolution, or anything like that. It's just literally, it's a world that you can go into, and it's kind of like Alice in Wonderland. You're standing at a manhole, and the manhole opens up, and a beanstalk comes out of it, and you climb down the beanstalk into this manhole, and it's like Wonderland, like a completely alternate dimension where animals talk, and they live in houses, and there's phones, and it's very similar to the Myst, except there are NPCs, more prevalent NPCs in the game, and there's not really an end objective. But being a kid at that age, I was probably, I was probably 10, maybe 11 or something like that. It was back when the Power PC, it was a 133/33 Power PC Mac came out, and yeah, it was perfect because it was around my age, maybe a little bit younger than what I would have liked to play it at the time. But if I would have played Myst at the time, dear God, I would have never played another adventure game ever again.
I never finished it because it got to the point. I was playing it I was visiting. Well, the point is, I wasn't at my place, and I brought one game, and that was Myst. And so I was playing it for pretty much hours a day, just trying to kill time between what we were planning on doing. And I got to the point where I was getting stuck so much, and I was looking up so much stuff. I think I was looking up, stuff every probably half hour, and I was just like, you know what, this is ruining it for me. I'm just going to wait until I can get it on the computer or a console or something, and I can sit down and really, play, get stuck, and then go continue my life and think about it, because it was ruining it for me, because it was either I look up what I was playing, or what I was doing wrong, or what I couldn't do in Myst, or I do absolutely nothing for the next hour. So obviously I was going to go look it up, right?
Yeah, you gotta...
And it was killing it for me.
That's one thing with adventure games, is I rarely ever, with the exception of a couple, and those being my favorites or whatever, I don't play adventure games by themselves. I have to have something else to be able to occupy my time with besides that, because they can drive you crazy, man, and that's where I think a lot of people, especially hardcore gamers, people who are used to putting in 4 to 6 hours on Call of Duty or something like that, You can easily put in 4 to 6 hours on an adventure game, but it's going to be the most frustrating 4 to 6 hours. Like, it's not going to be like, every few minutes or something like that, you get to blow some dude's head off and you get a little bit of satisfaction for the time that you've put in.
Yeah.
You could be stuck on a puzzle for several days.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one of those things where adventure games, they are casual, they are supplementary, and I really like them because of that. Because as much as I like being a hardcore gamer and, like I'm going for the world record in NES pinball right now, and that is pretty much, it's fun, but I'm on this regiment where I'm playing like an hour and a half to 2 hours a night, and I keep doing that to, keep boosting my score, learn more things about the game and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And adventure games are quite the opposite, where sometimes you really need some time away from it to get a fresh perspective, because they're very much like situations in real life that can become frustrating. Sometimes you need to take a step outside of the situation and get a good look at what's going on to see it for what it really is. And, lessons in life with adventure games.
We're going to tell you guys how you should be playing, what you should be feeling. We
know
our stuff. I have played about 6 adventure games, let me tell you.
I don't even know how. I've played a lot. I look at them like books, like, and there's a wide variety of what I would consider adventure games. Like I consider the Star Trek Borg interactive movie for the PC. I consider that to be an adventure game. It's more or less,
it gives you choices every now and then, and if you don't get them, you die. Yeah, it's kind of an adventure game.
Yeah, so I mean, I've got a wide scope of what I'll look at as far as an adventure game goes, but your traditional graphical adventure point and click, like, everybody thinks back on like the Sierra games and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Which I don't know if you know or if your viewers know, but they've actually taken all those the King's Quest games and they've remastered them and put them available for download and play for free.
For free?
For free.
It's not on... I remember seeing them on Good Old Games or whatever it's called. But they were selling them, but they might have not been the remastered free ones, and that was like a year ago.
Yeah, somebody has gone through, and it's agdinteractive.com. It's AGDI is the studio. And they have gone through and they've remastered all the graphics. And it's not like, it's not obviously bringing it into like, 1080p or anything like that. But they've taken the old graphics, given it kind of like a 32-bit-ish shell to it.
Yeah.
Just really spruced up the backgrounds, the hand-drawn image, or whatever you want to call it, the artwork and stuff like that. And given it, something that very feasibly could have been played on, at the very least, the Super Nintendo or something.
Right.
Maybe even something a little higher caliber. So it's nice. It gives them a nice smooth feel to them. And if you go to agdinteractive.com/games/games.html, it's got King's Quest 1, 2, and 3. Also, they've got Quest for Glory 2, Emo, and The Lost Dutchman's Mine. I've never played that.
No.
Looks like some of these actually might be brand new adventure games. And they're just done in the old style of the Sierra games. So I've been playing through King's Quest 1, and I have to say it does look... it looks a lot better, but it's still... Like, when you play it, there's no mistaking that you're playing the original King's Quest 1.
Right.
It still carries that nostalgic feel. And I almost think it's better because, when you look back at a game... And you think about, like, think of your favorite game, like your favorite platformer game or something like that. Or maybe one of those elusive arcade games that you only got to play like 5 minutes on as a kid. But it was so awesome that you can't believe it. And you've been waiting like 20 years to get back to find that arcade game again and play it. Yeah. And then you do. You get it on MAME and it's like, okay, this is going to be awesome. And you put it on and it's like, wow, this is kind of crappy, I guess. I guess my 7-year-old, mind hadn't developed very good taste yet or something like that. This is one of those things where you play these and they look as good as you remember they looked. And it's cool.
And it must be hard, too, if you were playing the original versions, because I haven't played a King's Quest game, but because it's a text adventure, or it's a point and click, right? Or is it text?
Yeah. Yeah, it's point and click.
Yeah, so you have to find things and like combine things and put things in certain other things, and you're like, it must be difficult to tell sometimes what's going on.
It is. There, I mean, with any adventure, obviously, like as the detail goes up in the graphics, you start being able to look for more detailed things. Mm-hmm. For instance, in the King's Quest or something, I'm trying to think of a particular puzzle. Well, either way, I mean, it's say in King's Quest, there's a puzzle that involves lowering a bucket into a well, and perhaps putting something into that bucket, or putting yourself into that bucket and lowering it into the well and stuff. Whereas in a modern graphical adventure, it may be something a lot more detailed, whereas you have to get close to the well and you have to examine the crank, and you find out that the crank is broken, and you get smaller tools to repair that and stuff. So, it goes both ways. Sometimes, you're on the old Sierra games and stuff, or the old LucasArts games, and you feel like it's just kind of a pixel hunt. It's just click every single pixel on the screen, and at least that way you found everything.
Yeah.
But it can get that way with a lot of modern games. Like, for example, there's, what am I trying to think of? Keepsake. It's a modern adventure game where you basically play a woman. You show up you respond to a letter from a friend, and you go to the school that she's at, which is called Dragonvale Academy, and it looks like kind of a Hogwarts type thing.
Sounds like the best school ever, Dragonvale Academy.
Yeah, right?
I want to go there.
Well, and it's pretty traditional, adventure style. You get there, and there's nobody there. You got this entire expansive grounds to explore, but everybody disappeared. There's little notes left behind and stuff like that. But it's still it's about the same difficulty as the old ones too. It's
And what's that?
I don't know.
Is this for PC?
Yeah, Keepsake.
Oh, okay.
That's a good one. There's also I got one right here actually. If you like horror. Like maybe not horror survival, but like horror adventure games. Very similar to is it Amnesia: The Dark Descent? Is that new one?
The one where you're just running away from enemies, I think. You're like underground.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
I think it's that. That's what it is.
Compare it to that, it's not really running away from like an unseen presence, so it's not as creepy as that. This is more or less like, I guess maybe in visual style it's more similar. It's darker. It looks like the whole thing might have taken a bath in Tim Burton or something like that. But I mean, a lot of these games, like a company to pay attention to is the Adventure Company, and I mean they put out a lot of. Obviously from the name title, you can tell, like, well, they obviously put out a lot of graphical adventures and stuff.
Yeah.
So they do put out some where it's kind of like, okay, well, good job taking one story, guys, and putting it into another skin. So it's a lot of some cookie cutter stuff.
Yeah.
But there's games like Syberia and Black Mirror that really, they definitely stand out. Yeah. They're good games.
I've only played...
Omega Stone.
Sorry, keep going.
Oh, it's just the Omega Stone. I think that's Riddle of the Sphinx, and then Riddle of the Sphinx 2, I believe, is the Omega Stone.
Yeah.
But...
that made me... that made me think of something, and I totally just blanked out. I was going to say something. What are we talking about again?
Video games.
No, it wasn't that.
Okay.
No, it was after it was right before the Adventure. Syberia. That's what it was. Yeah, I only played.
Syberia.
I played Syberia for a couple minutes, and I had it. I was playing it whenever I was over at my fiance's mother's house. I think she had it on her computer, and I had a couple minutes to kill, so I was like clicking through it, and then I found the Syberia game, and I only played probably 10-15 minutes, but it was really intriguing. I really want to play it. I have it on Xbox now, but I haven't had a chance to play it yet.
It's pretty cool. It's how do I describe it? I don't want to give away any spoilers, just in case anybody does want to play these. I mean, you got to keep in mind that as far as graphics go, when I talk about a modern as Syberia being a modern graphical adventure, I mean, like, more update than the Sierra games. There are games, coming out now that, especially by, like, Funcom, Ragnar Turnquist, that they obviously blow these away graphically, but it gives you enough to work off of. And, like, Siberia's, it's got just a hint of supernatural in it. A lot of, basically just enough of it in there to make you think that it might be real. And you play a woman named Kate Walker, and you basically, how would I say, you uncover some secrets that start. It's like an unexpected twist, and during a business trip, you basically, kind of how like Da Vinci Code goes, like one average day turns into this epic adventure that you would never expect to find yourself on. Yeah. And yeah, it's got a lot of cool stuff in it. It's definitely a good story, good characters. Voiceovers are always kind of a funny thing in adventure games. Like, you never really get the most fantastic voiceovers. And in my opinion, like, it's like, I think the worst voiceovers are the best,
So, sometimes.
Like, yeah.
If your favorite game had the worst voiceovers ever, you might not like that. But there's definitely some games where it adds to the appeal.
I know my favorite game of all time does have some pretty good reputation for having some of the worst voiceovers. For some of the worst voice acting.
It's no House of the Dead 2, though.
No.
Or what's that other really bad one? A lot of people find Shenmue really bad. I don't. I kind of like it, but
it's probably right about in the category of Shenmue, like with the pacing and stuff like that. It's like, it's not bad, but sometimes Shenmue's another one where I think it's I don't look at it. It's not like the next Citizen Kane or anything like that for dialogue or anything, but it's a style unto its own. It's enjoyable. It's a video game with dialogue. I mean, you got to go somewhere with it. It's a lot better than back in the day when we got Ghostbusters, like stuff like that, or yeah. I mean, all that stuff. So it's got to come somewhere. It's obviously evolved. And then there's points where it falls back too. There's points where you just kind of have to look at yourself, look at the game and just chuckle a little bit. And sometimes you have to be appreciative of the fact that, when you look at it, adventure games, like, when's the last time you saw a commercial for an adventure game?
Well, I don't watch TV, so never.
Okay, well, for your viewers out there, I highly doubt you have seen any adventure game, in the genre that we're speaking of, anytime in the recent past. But you have seen Halo, and you've seen Call of Duty, and Marvel vs. Capcom and all that stuff. And so adventure games are kind of in another realm of budget, in another realm of pop culture. They don't get,
when they come out, you forgive them for their faults. Because you're like, yes, another adventure game, finally.
Because you get those points of the worst, it's like the worst voice acting ever. And that is literally, that's the guy who ended up working late that night. Yeah. And they were just like, dude, come in here. We need you. And he was like, oh, okay, what?
We need you to be taxi driver 6. We need you to be the train. We need you to be the train driver. We need you to be the hobo. And we need you to be this old woman. Go.
Yeah, exactly. And 20 minutes later, you got the voices for half your characters. And, on one side, it's kind of run and gun. And it's like, people would be like, well, why don't you put the effort in there? And the other side of the coin is just like, look, these guys don't have the money. They're MacGyvering this stuff, and not always. There's good budgets behind adventure games and stuff like that, but it's few and far between to get an adventure game with a really good budget. And the fact these programmers are dedicated to the point where just to get it done, to put it out there and let people enjoy it, they'll do something like that. And it's the sort of thing that I think that's why I like YouTube too, because people like you and I, it's obviously we don't have networks behind us funding all this crap and, putting this all together for us. But you know what? We give it our best shot. We have a good time while we're doing it. And, hopefully other people do too.
Yep. And okay, speaking of really bad voice acting, okay, so there was a point-and-click adventure game on the Wii called Tunguska, I think. I think it was also on the DS, maybe. And I know it had a sequel in PAL territories, but it didn't have a sequel here. And I really wanted to like it. I wanted to like it so bad, but the voice acting was... some of it was really bad, and the main character just had like this annoying... it was this girl, and she had like this annoying... Whenever she'd say S's, it was like really high-pitched. You know that? It was like that the whole game, and we just found it so grating, and I couldn't stand it. And some of the puzzles were ridiculous. They had like... Okay, there was this guy inside this house, and you had to hear what he was saying. So what you do is you go up to the cat, and you tape your cell phone to the cat, and then you give the cat the anchovies off of an anchovy pizza you found, so the cat gets thirsty, and then goes in through the cat door to go get a drink, which happens to be beside the guy, and then you go outside and call on the phone booth, your own phone, to hear him.
Oh, wow.
Like, I'm all up for challenge, but that's just stupid.
Yeah.
So don't... I highly do not recommend Tunguska on the Wii. It is not... I don't like it at all.
Is that... The only adventure game that I can think of on the Wii, and I haven't played it, I want to get a hold of it, but that's not Cursed Mountain, is it?
No, it's not Cursed Mountain.
Okay.
Cursed Mountain, I heard, was good, except for... I heard the controls are really bad, but I heard everything else is pretty good.
Yeah, from what it looks like to me, and obviously, like, I haven't played it, so I can't make that judge. It looks good enough.
Yeah.
I would be interested, as long as it's not the game that you just described there.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
I didn't know that was an adventure game.
That's what it's telling me in my head. Like, because I remember a while back, when the Wii came out, it took me a few years to get one, actually, but I finally got one, and I remember thinking, this is going to be absolutely perfect for adventure gaming. Like, yep. This is what I've been waiting for, the console that brings adventure gaming to the console. It brings it to the mainstream, and it never really happened.
I know, the same thing happened. I was like, this is going to be awesome for horror games, because you can use just the flashlight to go around. It's going to be awesome for first-person shooters.
Yeah.
And what isn't there on the Wii? Horror games, first-person shooters, and adventure games. The three things it's perfect for. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, no, but we got 13 plastic guns that we can fit our Wiimotes into, so that we can have the tactical advantage in all 4 shooting games.
Yeah, really.
And that's just... Yeah, don't get me wrong. I'm probably more of a Nintendo fanboy than anything else.
Oh no,
probably
I'm not
just
knocking
because...
the Wii. That's not the system's fault. That's not Nintendo's fault. That's third party's fault, really. Oh, it's not really. You can't really blame them though, because honestly, if they came out with all those games, nobody would buy them. So you can't blame them, I guess.
Yeah, and it's. That's why we were talking about before, where, you don't mind that some of the corners get cut with these games, because it's a wonder that the games get made in the first place. Like, I accept the fact that, I love adventure games and stuff like that. Not everybody else does. And not everybody else, it's not their favorite genre of game.
It's a really niche genre. Like, you either love them or you hate them.
Yeah.
Some people have never even played them. I'm sure a lot of people listening to this right now have never played a classic adventure game, or maybe they only did like 20 years ago. It's not something that's common.
It's it's one of those things where I would say it's an acquired taste, but it's not even that. It's you have to be willing to kind of go out on a limb and try it out, especially if you haven't tried an adventure game. Like, I guess to somebody who has never tried an adventure game and is listening to us right now wondering, like, well, hey, maybe these guys seem to have a lot to say about it. Maybe I would have fun with something like this too. Maybe you will. You should go and check out a couple top 10 lists of, people's all-time favorite adventure games. Mm-hmm. Think about what you would want to get out of that experience, what you would want to get out of the sort of thing that we're describing, and go out there and see if there's something like that, for you.
Yeah. Yep.
You know, there's a multitude of adventure games. There's adventure games that take place in medieval times that involve magic and sorcery and stuff. There's games that involve time travel, like Legacy of Time. I mean, that's pretty much like, well, it is. It's just you're basically like jetting through history, trying to correct mistakes and all sorts of stuff. There's adventure games that involve, I mean, right, the new one, Catherine. I mean, that's pretty much a brand new adventure game. There's puzzle aspects in it and stuff like that too, but you know, it's and if every new adventure game was like every old one, then it would die out even more quickly. We wouldn't even have the games we have now if they were all identical.
Yeah.
But
it's
another way.
Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, keep going.
Well, I was going to say it's another way to immerse people in a world. Some people get that feeling when they're in a first-person shooter. Some people get that feeling when they're controlling a party of, you know, magicians and thieves and healers and sorcerers and stuff like that. Some people get that in a spaceship, and some people get that simply interacting with a story that's going to take place the way it's going to take place, regardless of what you do within it or about it. And it's kind of like a step past a book.
Yeah, I think that's what it is, though. It's really the thing about text adventure games. It's partially the challenge, and it's partially, I think mostly, I guess, it's the immersion. I find you can immerse yourself a lot better because most of these games they're really slow paced, and which sounds like a bad thing, but it gives you a time to look around and to enjoy things. You know, if you're playing a game like, for example, House of the Dead 2, you're not going to immerse yourself in the world of House of the Dead 2. You're shooting anything that pops up on the screen, and when it's dead,
yeah, there's no time, man.
There's no time. But a game like, maybe not like the King's Quest, but something like Myst. Like Myst, you can go around and you can spend as much time just looking as you want to. And there is stuff to see because they know you're going to do that. Even in some games these days, if you can look around, there might be nothing to see because the developers, they know no one's going to look around. They know you're going to keep going on your mission. So
yeah, especially if the game requires it. I mean, there's a lot of stuff where you stand still, man, you're dead.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the nice thing about adventure games is there are a few out there. I haven't played too many adventure games where I've gotten backed into an irreversible corner where the game was completely ruined at that point. Mm-hmm. In fact, I don't think I ever have. I've always had some sort. I mean, I guess the text adventures, but those you die. I mean, you can die in text adventures from what I've played. Like Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, it basically gives you about a 10-move buffer on either side of, you know, the event that's going to take place. Yeah. And you've got within those 10 moves to do what you're required to do. Otherwise, the event's going to happen, and you're either on one side of it or you're on the death side of it.
Yeah.
And that's so there is that. But I mean, when you're dealing with these long ones, like a very similar game to Myst would be Schism, and that's just more of a updated, as opposed to like the screen fading. You know, from scene to scene, like let's say you're moving towards a building,
yeah,
and the screen fades away, and then it shows the building closer. This actually has like, fully rendered camera movement inside the game, so it's not just frame by frame. But yeah, and stuff like that. It's
isn't that one European or something? Didn't you mention that before?
I think so. I've never finished Schism, which I really should have, but it's a game that I got and. It was kind of when I didn't take so good care of my games, and instead of putting it back in the case, I just kind of stuck it on an old CDR spool, and over time, that just kind of scratched up the disc, and I never got to finish it because it got too damaged. Mm-hmm. But yeah, with I forget what I was on about now.
See, it's not just me; it happens.
Yeah, right. God, what were we talking about? What the hell kind of point was I trying to make with this?
I don't know. You just start babbling on, and then you're just like, oh, man, it's been 3 minutes of me talking, and I have no idea what I was trying to say.
Yeah.
I can't think of it either.
Crap.
Well, we were talking about immersion before. That was a while ago, though.
Yeah. Oh man. Okay. Shouldn't have drank all that vodka before. No, I don't drink actually.
It's like 3 in the afternoon where you are, isn't it?
Yeah. No, it's like 5:45 or something like that.
Oh, then you're good.
If you're gonna get started early though. No, I'm just that's. No, I don't drink, and neither should you, kids. So.
No. Wait until you're legal. Honestly, like I don't really drink either, but that's a topic for another day on something that's not about video games.
Well, drinking can be an adventure game too. It just there we go. I was just gonna say you can die with drinking. You can't die in an adventure game.
There you go.
Here we come. Background full circle. Yeah, what I was basically getting at with all that stuff is, with an adventure game, you've got a path in front of you, and you can be hindered by it and whatever, and you can run into a sticky spot or something, but it's never just gonna like cut you off or anything like that. I've never run into really any game busters with that where it just
I'm sure it could happen, but you were lucky.
I think it can. Yeah. I tend to keep a hint through section pretty handy, even though it's kind of like cheating. But like for example,
hints are different because a lot of games like they come with hints. Like there's a hint section and it'll give you like 2 or 3 hints, and the hints get more and more specific as you get more and more stuck, and then eventually they'll just tell you and they'll be like, "You're an idiot. Here you go.
Look at the door.
There's a handle. Click it."
Yeah. And then at the end of it, it's like, open the door and walk out, dumbass. But, yeah, it's nice. Like, I don't like to have my hand held through some of them, but there are a few games out there where maybe they were made a little bit difficult and a hint wouldn't be all that bad to have. And I mean, truth be told, some of these games can last, upwards of 100 hours.
Yeah.
So when you get into that, and then if you've been playing something for 90 hours and you're almost at the end of the game, and you've already bought the sequel and you're ready to play another game and stuff like that.
F it, I'm looking it up.
Yeah. I mean, you don't have to look up the whole secret to it or whatever, but just to get a hint, maybe, point you in the right direction and stuff.
And you know what it is sometimes? Is that like, oh, I didn't see that paper cup underneath that towel in the corner.
Yeah.
It's something silly like that. It's not like, oh, I couldn't figure this out. It's not like a thing of intelligence. It's a thing that there's you never would have thought of that at all. And that happens to me a lot in adventure games where you're like, you know what? I don't feel bad looking that up because I never ever would have thought of that. Not figuring something out, but like finding something. Sometimes you can't see it. And even sometimes when they tell you, you're like, really? Is that what that's supposed to be?
There's a point in one of my favorite games of all time that it literally you're in a building and you have to get a form from a lady and bring it to another section of the building and get it signed, but then find out there that you need another form, and it's literally like a 2-hour thing of like nonstop going back and forth, getting forms, getting them signed, getting them duplicated, and you have to do it all in a specific order. Otherwise, it doesn't work, and you have to start over again. And that was one of those points where I was like, all right, I'm looking this thing up because no way.
Yeah.
I just spent 3 hours trying to figure this out, and it did not work, so I'm not spending another 3 hours and have it not work. And that's one of my favorite games of all time. So I mean, it just goes to show you that nothing's perfect.
No.
It's all an evolution forward, and you look at where text adventures were, and now you look at where graphical adventures have come and where they are now, and where they could be with, possibly the advent of technology, new technologies. Like, I mean, we've had virtual reality capabilities for quite a while.
Yeah.
But, imagine that stuff becoming a bit more mainstream. And then imagine being able to play a fully immersive 3D adventure game where it's not point-and-click adventure. It's reach out and grab adventure. Mm-hmm. Like, it's walk around and actually exist in this world adventure, which could be dangerous. But it's all a progression, and I think it's cool. It's fascinating on the technology side of it. It's fascinating on just the entertaining side of it too.
But
to watch
doing something like Myst, for example, in virtual reality wouldn't be that complicated because it's such a simple game. I think they could do that now, or could have even years ago, but
definitely
people aren't going to spend that amount of money to play Myst. They're not going to buy a headset and gloves and all that just to play Myst.
On a side note, there is a set of those, the virtual reality, the duo, I forget what they're called now. I could look it up right now, but there's a set of those, the virtual reality pods that they had in Hackers and Blank Check, a lot of 80s and 90s movies. There's two of them sitting probably about 10, 15 minutes away from me. The guy, I think, wants $900 for the pair of them.
Which is probably fair if they're movie memorabilia, but still.
But in reality, like this, it may sound a little overboard, but I would say $9,000 would be fair for something like that. $900 is... If there's any of your listeners out there that actually know what I'm talking about and are familiar with the hardware and the software that is required to run one of these machines, and the fact that there are two of them, for $900 for the pair, like somebody's jaw is sitting on the table right now. Because they are average. They sell per unit about $19,000. So
19,000 or 1,900?
19,000. They're very expensive. They're used for flight simulators and for virtual reality arcades, which aren't really like.
Oh, so these are actually usable. I didn't know what you were talking about. So
these are the full. It's like a cage. I mean, you're standing on a platform, and then there's these bars that it's like a circular bar that goes around about chest level, and you have two controllers in each hand, kind of like reminiscent of the Wiimotes, but they're gun controllers. Like you can play, I think Dactyl Nightmare, and I don't remember what the other one is, but yeah, a little side note. But I guess where I was going with all of that is. Just
you can die.
Looking at technology. Yeah.
I think that was the point 20 minutes ago. You can die.
Yeah. You can die in adventure games sometimes.
I remember probably the first adventure game I ever played was at a friend's house. He had Police Quest, which I'm pretty sure was text. But I can't be sure.
No, I've never.
I can't be sure. Okay, I played this probably when I was 5, and I haven't seen it since, so if everything I'm saying is completely wrong, too bad. So I remember playing Police Quest, and it's basically just you start off, I think, in the locker room, and you're put on police belt, walk out. And then we remember, I think you could go into the showers, and we thought it was the funniest thing that you could go into the showers. I was 5, right? This is the funniest thing ever. And I remember going out into the boardroom, and I think you could type in take off pants or something. And I don't know if we could actually do that, or that's just something we always talked about, because this was a long time ago. And I remember going outside, and you meet your first enemy or something, and it's a bad guy. And we never got past him, the first guy, because I think you'd have to type out, pull out gun, shoot gun at bad guy. But we were 5, so I know nowadays 5-year-olds can probably type pretty well. But back then, you're just you got your two fingers out and you're T-A. I'm dead. And we could never get past the first bad guy because he would just always shoot us. And again, this might all just be in my imagination and I might be saying it completely wrong, but I remember that from back in the day. That was a good time.
You know what that reminds me of? When you were talking about... This is funny, actually. When you're talking about taking off your pants. Mm-hmm. What's the one adventure game we have not talked about here that is pretty much everybody should know about? There's probably some dude right now screaming at his computer screen over and over until we say it.
Monkey Island?
Oh, Jesus. Yeah, Monkey Island. I'm thinking Leisure Suit Larry, but oh my God, how did I forget frickin' Monkey Island?
I have it written down. There's a bunch that I've never played and I want to play, and that's one of them. They're on the Wii.
God,
and have you played them on the Wii?
I haven't played the new versions of them.
Okay, because I've never. I think the old one has. I think the one on the Wii has the old one and the new one. But like ones that I want to play and I haven't played at least extensively is like Monkey Island, Out of This World, and Flashback, which I consider adventure games.
Yeah, those are two excellent. They're very good. They're a little bit different than standard adventure games, but it's still same idea.
It's the same, like, we're going to kill you if you step out of line, and like...
Yeah, it's like a cross between adventure games and those old FMV games like Dragon's Lair and stuff like that.
Yeah. And Syberia I want to get into again, and I think it's called Machinarium or something. Machinarium. I want to play that as well, but...
There's a good one. It's for free download. I could not tell you off the top of my head where to find it, but it's called Beneath a Steel Sky.
Yeah, I remember you telling me about that. That one looks good.
Yep. That is definitely, I won't say, well, yeah, it's pretty much a must-have. I mean, if you're into playing like the old style, you know, graphical, especially if you like Out of This World or Flashback or anything like that, especially Out of This World, it's very similar to that. Mm-hmm. Whereas it's less, you know, object finding and stuff like that, and more of how you creatively deal with a scenario. Like there'll be a guard walking into the room, and he walks in every 30 seconds, and you have to get down and get something off his desk. But unfortunately, you can't just do that. You can't just go down and get something off this desk. You have to go through your inventory, and you got to grab a wrench, and you got to turn a pipe and break something so that it distracts him outside, so you can get it, you know, at his desk. And if you, you know, something like that. But
tape the cell phone to the cat and feed it some anchovies. And
yeah,
it'll all work out.
Maniac Mansion's another good one too.
Oh, is that a point and click?
It's well, yeah, pretty much. It's on the NES.
Yeah, I've heard of it many times, but I've never played it or seen anything about it. Is that kind of like a horror one?
It's kind of like a kooky horror. You're stuck in this mansion and you basically have to escape. There's all sorts of little traps, and there's a story. I haven't played it in a hell of a long time, but yeah, it's maybe a little bit better graphics than the old Sierra games. But there's Maniac Mansion, and then there's a sequel that John Gamester81 put me onto when I was on the All Gen Gamers podcast, and that's Day of the Tentacle. And
yeah, I've heard of that one too.
Yeah, I've heard of the game, but I never knew it was a sequel to Maniac Mansion. So I just, you know, I think everybody has a couple of those games where, you know, for a lot of people it was Mega Man 1. You looked at it in the rental store as a kid, and even though it just so happens to be one of the most awesome games of all time, you look at it and you're like, I ain't playing that.
Yeah,
I'm not renting that. You know?
I'm going to rent Bayou Billy instead. That looks cool.
Yeah, because there's alligators on the cover. That won't be hard. It won't kill me during the first level. I won't go to bed every night this next week crying myself to sleep because I can't even get past the driving stage.
Oh, and you know how you were talking about different genres, right?
Mm-hmm.
You made me think of a point-and-click adventure game that I've never thought of it as a point-and-click adventure game until now, because you said a horror point-and-click adventure. Have you ever heard of Clocktower?
Yeah, what?
Now, the original one was on the Super Nintendo, but it never made it over here. And then Clocktower 2...
No, maybe.
Clocktower 2 in North America, they call it Clocktower 1. And it's on the PS1. And honestly...
Yeah.
It's...
yeah, I have heard of it.
Yeah, it's the scariest game I've ever played, I think. And I don't mean scary like Silent Hill is like messed up. It's just messed up. It's not the same kind of scary. But this one, because it's a point-and-click horror game, and there's basically this guy called Scissorman with huge garden shears that chases you around the whole game. And he's like just going shing, 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 and you can hear him like coming down hallways and stuff, and you're hiding.
Oh,
and
God.
Any second he can like burst through and just stab you right in the gut. And it's a point-and-click adventure game on the PS1. And honestly, it's the scariest game because the whole time you're like on the edge of your seat and you do not want to get stabbed.
I'm writing this one down, man. Yeah. Clocktower, because I have as soon as you said there was a sequel over here, and I was like, I was thinking PS1. Because I remember something like that on the PS1. I'll definitely have to track that down.
I think there's one in PS2 as well. I think it's kind of like more Resident Evil-ish, but I haven't played it, so I wouldn't know. I think this game is a bit pricier. I think it's probably closer to 20, but keep an eye open for it anyways. A lot of people say it's horrible. Like, I see like reviews for it, they give it like a 4 out of 10 and stuff, but I think it's great. Like, the voice acting's meh, the graphics meh, but honestly, you play this in the dark by yourself, and you'll probably be afraid. Maybe not. Some people have probably played it and they're laughing at me right now, but I found it scary.
That's like Amnesia: The Dark Descent.
Yeah, I'm sure some people just laugh at that and they think it's stupid. But
not me, man. That scared the hell out of me. Like,
it looks scary to me.
I don't know. It's you know what it is it's the concept that something that means you ill is right behind you.
It's coming.
Not only that, but yeah, it's
not.
coming to get you, and it's getting closer. Mm-hmm. And that's like the Jaws mentality too. That's why Jaws was so freaky, is because it's like, oh man, he's gonna get him. He's gonna get him. Like, it's just knowing that it's coming and the inevitability of it. And those are always, those are the scariest dreams too, is when you're in a dream and you're being chased by some sort of unseen, horror, or something that you're very afraid of, or something that you feel is going to kill you, or something like that. Those are freaky ass dreams, man.
And this is what Clocktower does, because it's not unknown. You know who it is. It's a freaky guy with giant shears that wants to stab you or cut off your head. Okay. So you know what it is, but it doesn't make it any less scary, and the fact that it's a point and click adventure means you have way less control. You can't just wait until he's right beside you and then dodge out of the way. You can't throw something at him. You can click on this door and you can hope that it opens and that you can hide in it before he gets down the hallway.
Yeah, you can't exactly snipe him from a distance in a point and click.
No. Because there's been times you're just like, oh, I'm going to hide here. And the thing is cool, too, is that if you try to hide in the same place more than a couple times, he'll find you. So if you only know one hiding place in that level, you are in big trouble. You'd better beat that level fast.
That sucks.
But it's
crazy.
Really good.
I'll definitely...
I would check it out.
It reminds me of Amnesia: The Dark Descent, and I haven't played this one, but I've been told it's very similar. Scratches. I don't know if you've heard that.
No.
The basic concept behind it is you're in a house and you hear scratching, and that's all I know about it. All I've heard is it's really scary, and you're in a house, you're trying to find your way out or trying to find something, solve some sort of mystery, and there's this odd, unearthly scratching.
That sounds kind of terrifying.
Yeah, and it's supposed to I guess it pervades through the whole game too, so it just slowly just drives you insane. Yeah. Which it's kind of, it sounds like an interesting social experiment. I'm not sure what kind of game it'll make, but I'm down for trying it.
Yeah, you'd have to play it by yourself in the dark though, for sure.
Yeah.
Because some of those you can ruin a good horror game just by having someone else in the room with you, or someone who likes to talk. Really.
Yeah, and I'm that dude. I seriously, if it's me playing, I can keep my mouth shut. I will get into it or whatever. But even my wife, she hates watching horror movies with me.
You're just like, don't open the door. Don't open the door.
Yeah. Oh, dude, you're such an idiot. Why are you going in there? You're gonna die. Yeah, I will narrate an entire movie if there's somebody else there, and it's one of those weird things where I can't help myself, man. I literally just, even though it's it's not funny, everybody's looking at you like they hate you, and I still gotta say it.
Yeah.
I have a horror commentator Tourette syndrome.
So you're swearing during it as well?
Yeah.
A game, and I've wanted to talk about this game for a while, and I've talked to you about it previously. It's called Broken Sword, Shadow of the Templars. I don't know if you've checked it out yet, have you?
No, I have not, actually.
Okay. So it was a game, I think it was released in 93 or something on the PC. It's pretty old as far as, it's a port to the Wii. So they ported this like 15-year-old game on the Wii, this point-and-click adventure.
Huh.
And it's how do you describe it?
What is it on Virtual Console or is it a?
No, it's a retail release. It's actually on a lot of things. It's on the Game Boy Advance, it's on the DS, it's on the Wii, I think it's on PC, iOS. They've ported it over many times, which says something about it. And this one, honestly, this is like the opposite of the horror movie. Like, you want people in the room with you. Because honestly, it's, again, I'm saying it, like, it seems like a long, boring movie. Which, it seems like it would be a really bad thing, but for some reason, it's so good. And I don't know if it's hand-drawn graphics, but it looks hand-drawn. And really how me and my fiance played through this game, and it was really funny at times. Like, it was one of these games where the characters are all so great, you love them all, even the most minor characters. And this was, I know you were saying, most old games, adventure games, have really bad voice acting, but this one for '93 is phenomenal. There's no time where you're laughing because somebody has bad dialogue. They might have weird dialogue, weird writing, but the voice acting is phenomenal. And the main character's name is George. He's an American who goes over to, I think it's Paris, or somewhere in France, and he gets kind of sucked into this whole, it's your classic adventure thing. He gets sucked into this whole conspiracy thing, and he meets up with a French woman, Nicole Collard, I think her name is. And George's voice is, you hear it the most often, and it's so, like, soothing and trusting that you just want to keep clicking on things to hear this guy, to hear what he's going to say. And he's got this really, like, candid, like, this really silly, candid, but, like, soothing and trusting voice. And you should really check this out. And anyone else, I wouldn't get it on the Game Boy Advance because it's tiny and, the color palette's not as great. But definitely get it on the Wii. I think you can probably get it for easily under 20. It's probably closer to 10 or maybe even $8 or $7 or something. And the Wii version is a director's cut, so it has a couple extra levels, and the only bad thing is it has a bit of editing. Like, I think at one point somebody throws a knife into somebody, and instead they just shoot him, because I guess it's less violent.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But that's only a couple spots, and overall, I really think I think you would love it. It's actually in that 1001 games you should play before you die. It's actually in there. And
it sounds pretty rockin', man.
And the music is really weird too. It's kind of like you will, like, walk into a room and then, like, slowly, like, this kind of, like, it'll have, like, violins, and it'll be like this kind of, like, really old Disney movie kind of feel. And it feels like you listen to it and you're like, this shouldn't fit, but it does. It fits so well. And
nice.
It's a pretty decent...
I like awkward chemistry.
It is awkward, is what it is. And the graphics are awkward, too, because they're so old and hand-drawn. And, like, whenever the characters walk, their arms are all moving all funny. But honestly, you should check this out. And it holds up, even, like, 15 years later. This is... I mean, I know it's a port, but it's probably one of my favorite games on the Wii. Probably my fiancé as well. And probably one of my favorite games of all time. Maybe not of all... Maybe in my top... Probably say top 50, which to some people may seem like a lot, but I mean, I have hundreds of games, so that's a pretty small list. Definitely check it out.
Yeah, I hear you. I'd say a top 50
is... Hello?
Oh, yeah, something's going on here weird. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Yeah, you were going all like Matrix for a second, so it was like, yeah, I think you're...
yeah, so there's I think there's 3 or 4 games. There's one, the second game was released on PS1, but I think it's a bit harder to find. And the third game is Broken Sword 3, The Sleeping Dragon, and it's on PC, and it's also on Xbox. And they moved to 3D. So it's like more like a... It's still point and click. Actually, no, wait. It's not point and click. What am I talking about? No, you just walk around and then you, like, click A to click on things and then look at them. But,
okay.
So they made the move to 3D, and it kind of killed it, to be honest. I feel like they're moving to 3D. It makes the game less expressive. I found like the characters were more expressive when they were flat and more charming, and now I don't know, the 3D just makes it seem like it's I don't know. And honestly, it wouldn't be that bad, except at least on the Xbox, it has the worst loading times of any game I've ever played. And if you're playing a game that has, you want to immerse yourself in it, loading times is it's a big deal.
Yeah.
Like, there's sometimes you walk into another room and it takes a good 30 seconds, which doesn't sound like much to people, but honestly, try playing a game and walk into another room and just stop moving and stare at your watch for 30 seconds, and do that every time you want to walk into another room, or there's maybe not every other room, but into another environment, or every time there's a cutscene. It gets to you. It really does. I feel like I've spent probably half an hour just sitting there staring at the loading screen. It's just, ugh. And I really wanted to love it because the first game is so great. So I wouldn't really recommend Broken Sword 3, but Broken Sword 1, Shadows of the Templar, I highly recommend it, and I would be very surprised if you didn't love it.
There are very few adventure games that I don't find myself liking, in all honesty. In all honesty, I can't think of one that I don't like. I mean, I can think of a few that I haven't finished, like Schism. That was kind of outside of my control. But I can't really think of one that I just blatantly dislike. I always, if it seems like something that's going to be in, a subject matter that I'm not going to be interested in, I wondered a bit about Syberia, just because it's, when you look at the cover of it, it's uncover a secret on a journey across distant lands. So, I mean, immediately right there, I'm thinking like, well, this is going to be some magical stuff, Yeah. And you start reading the description, and it's less of a, when you think about things that contain magic and mystery and stuff like that, it's, you usually see it right up front, like Harry Potter. That's in your face magic, like that's what the movie is about. And this one wasn't so clear, so I wasn't too sure about it, but I ended up enjoying it anyways. And, I can't think of any that I really just didn't like when all was said and done.
Well, I can think of one, and that's Tunguska. I don't know how many times I can say it. Don't play it.
I'll steer clear of that, because I kind of like the perfect record I've got going on right now. That's, maybe that's why it's one of my favorite genres, is because I have not been disappointed with at least my choice in adventure games at all, really. I mean,
and maybe
it does boil down to...
Keep going.
I'm sorry. I was going to say, it boils down to the fact that, I only pick the things that, would seemingly be interesting to me. So if I see something that... I'm not going to play an adventure game about... Hello Kitty or something like that. I'm not going to play Dora the Explorer, the adventure game, just simply because that's not my thing. I will, though, pick up something that I have no idea what it is, but it looks like it's just going to be an epic journey the whole way through.
Yeah, I think that at classic adventure games, point and click or text, I think that the ratio of those games that are labors of love to their developers is probably higher than any other genre, I would have to say.
Yeah.
Because
definitely.
if you can't get by really by making just not caring about making a classic adventure game. I feel like because it comes off too easily, right? If you don't care about a puzzle game or you don't care about a shooter, and you're developing it, it's still passable. But if you make a really bad, don't give a crap about, the game you're developing and it's an adventure game, it's going to fall right flat on its face. And I don't know, I just feel like people put more time into them. Maybe I'm wrong.
And I think it's kind of an even more drastic fall for adventure games because, at least in my opinion, a lot of people may disagree with me on this, but when an adventure game fails, it falls through two categories. It first becomes a bad adventure game, but when that doesn't suffice, it becomes a bad hidden object game. And hidden object games are pretty much about as I'm not knocking them, at least. They're for as much as I like adventure games, I hate hidden object games.
Yeah.
I hate them. I absolutely hate them with a passion. If I'm just finding things and I'm not doing anything with them, I don't like it. There's something about it. There's a game that I kind of got into a little bit, and I'm really at the cusp of deciding whether or not I like it or not, and that is the Dream Chronicles for the Nintendo DS. And it is a very, very hidden object-y game, but there are a couple of things in it where you have to combine the objects and actually do stuff and use a little bit of puzzle solving too. So I'm on the fence with that one, but when you have, if you don't put the effort into an adventure game, it's a hidden object game, in my opinion. I guess there's a few other different turns that it could take. It could obviously go into like a platforming aspect or something like that, but an adventure game really has to, for it to even remotely hold up to other games, it really, in my opinion, has to have a whole lot more craft put into it. Mm-hmm. It's got to have a good story. It's got to have likable characters. It's got to be able to keep you involved without keeping you shooting at aliens.
Yeah.
And that's probably the most difficult aspect right there is you're playing an adventure game and you're not very adventurous, You're not jumping around from cliffs and stuff like that. You're not flying in helicopters or shooting lasers. That stuff may happen in the game, but you have no control over it. You're just simply going to make choices, and that's going to lead to those events happening.
Yeah.
One of the very few exceptions is Dreamfall, the sequel to The Longest Journey, and that's people hate that combat system. It's a very, very simple combat system, even simpler than the one in Grand Theft Auto, or Grand Theft Auto 3, and it's very, very clunky. There's a reason why you don't have to do that in an adventure game, because a true adventure game should carry its own. It should carry itself through, from start to finish. It should make you feel sad when it wants you to feel sad. It should make you feel afraid, just like a good movie does. You should feel like time is running out when time is running out and stuff. But they have to do it without all that other stuff.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point.
It's not even without. It's just with it's like telling some guy who lays concrete that you don't get to do this with a cement mixer and a steamroller. You got to do this with a feather duster and a bucket or something like that, just something really where you're going to get a tricycle and a pair of sandals. Go lay cement. And it's not that you can't do that, although I don't understand how you would lay cement with a tricycle and a pair of sandals, but I've never seen it not done.
Yeah.
So they're given a separate set of tools, or they choose to work with a separate set of tools, and it's really amazing how they build such an inclusive experience. Not for everybody, but for those who enjoy it, it's a good thing.
Yeah. Okay, so you mentioned just now Dreamfall. All right. Now,
yeah,
I don't actually know what your favorite game in this genre is, but seeing as you call yourself Crow online, I would assume that it has something to do with the Longest Journey series.
No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, hell yeah.
I was totally, so sure. I was about to be like, what?
What? Yeah, that is, I gotta say, man, that's probably my favorite game of all time, for a number of different reasons. And, yeah, Crow kind of resonates with that. There's a number of reasons why I use Crow, too. I don't need a lot of people that I don't know knowing my full name and being able to find out where I live. Yeah. Because there does stand the chance. I'm a really nice guy. I've got a very zen attitude towards life, but there's always that chance you might piss somebody off, and I don't need to deal with that. I don't have the time nor the desire to deal with people like that. So if somebody needs to know my real name, they can figure that out or ask me.
I looked up Crow in the phone book. It's not there, so
you can try.
I tried my best.
Another reason is a very, very little known fact about me, and we'll just keep this brief or whatever, is I'm an ordained minister in shamanism. and the crow is one of my primary totems. So, and that's just kind of a nickname that over time, my personal friends in real life, knowing that I was a reverend and things like that, knowing that crow was one of my totems, they eventually started calling me that.
Cool.
So just kind of carried over that. And
so that could actually have nothing to do with The Longest Journey.
It could, but that was... I remember, while I was playing The Longest Journey, how cool of a name I thought Crow was. And for those of you guys who don't know, Crow is an assistant, so to speak, in the game The Longest Journey, which is...
I think it's only available on PC, isn't it?
I
know you can get it right now.
I've only played it on PC.
I know you can get it right now on the website for, I think it's like $10 or something, and I don't know why I haven't gotten it yet, but...
yeah, you should. I have 2 copies.
I've played the sequel, Dreamfall, and we'll talk about that after. But because I want you to just, this is your favorite game, so I want you to just gush about this. I want you to tell me what's so awesome about it.
Well, as far as The Longest Journey goes, I started playing this game during a time where, to give you a little background, I was going to college. I was getting up at 7 in the morning, going to school from 8 o'clock in the morning till about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And then I worked as a janitor for my college for I don't know how many hours, a couple hours. And then I went to work as a telemarketer in Minneapolis, selling tickets to the Minnesota Orchestra for the next 5 hours or whatever. Then after that, I did band rehearsal because we played 6 nights a week. So we either played, we played 6 nights a week, or we rehearsed, whatever nights we didn't play. And I was in college for music and stuff like that, and that's how I was making a good portion of my living at the time. So it was necessary to keep that up. And I also had dreams of becoming like some big rock star and stuff. So it was,
you're a machine, man.
Man, but it breaks down pretty quick. That's all I got to say is you do that for a year and a half, close to 2 years straight, and life isn't so rosy and happy. And it came to a point where I was about to probably do something that was not going to be so good for myself. Possibly could have, ruined a lot of things, if not ended a lot of things in my life, if not ended my life in general. But I came across this game, and it's going to sound so stupid that a game would pull you out of something like this.
Not at all, man. Because, honestly, a lot of the people that you talk to, on YouTube, these people that are really passionate about it, a lot of why gaming means so much to them is escapism, is really what it was. I mean, for me, when I was, to other people, it might sound silly, but to me, Animal Crossing was escapism, because I was in a point in my life that I didn't like. Mostly everyone comes to this point in their life at some time where they want to get away and they can't. So they go into their room and they turn on the TV and they play something. And to me, Animal Crossing was the simplest. It's just this simple, charming world where nobody fights, everyone gets along, and it's just simple. You know what you do. You wake up, you pick some fruit, you bury some fruit, you pay off your dues, and it's simple. So I totally understand that.
Well,
I'm stealing your thunder here. Go ahead.
Oh, no, it's all good, man. I was just going to supplement that with, thank God they go in the room and they play something. Don't let, obviously you can take anything to an unhealthy level. But if you're having hard times and things and something helps you get out of that, as long as it doesn't cause harm to yourself or others, go for it, man. Because, like I said, thank God they're in there doing that, playing a video game and not hurting themselves. Thank God that I chose to escape into a video game as opposed to escape into the world of the not living, And I picked this game up randomly. It's called The Longest Journey. I mean, I was literally telling myself that I needed an escape. I went to Best Buy. Yeah, I went to Best Buy. And I was going to find a video game. This was my last ditch effort or whatever. And it was such a piss poor thought at the time. When I look back at it, it's of all the things you thought you would save you as a video game. But
I'm going to go to Best Buy to save my
life. At least I didn't, go start shooting up heroin or something like that. So I go and I see this title and it's called The Longest Journey. And I'm thinking to myself, now that that sounds like something that I could probably sink a good amount of time into. And I look at the back and I see the art style and stuff, and it was on the clearance shelf too. I think it was like $9 at the time, and I picked it up. And to give you a little idea of the scope of this game, it's a mandatory 140-hour game.
Are you kidding? Oh my god!
No, I'm dead serious, and that means that you don't get stuck. I mean, that's providing that you don't get stuck. This thing, to go from beginning to end flawlessly, will take you 140 total hours. So it is indeed one of the longest journeys you will take part in your video gaming career.
I don't think I've ever spent that much time on a single game. I honestly don't think so. Through one playthrough anyways.
It's pretty epic. It's I don't even know where to begin with this game. Let me say, first of all, the art style is beautiful. The entire thing, besides the main character and some of the the foreground animations, is all hand drawn. And it's obviously been rendered, digitized and stuff like that. So it does consist of pixels when you boil it down to it. But it has that very hand drawn feel. Other games that I'm trying to think of some other game. Guardian Heroes. That's another game where you can tell that it's been digitized, but it's been hand drawn, and it really shows that it has this organic feel that not many games of the time had.
Yeah.
And it's the story is absolutely phenomenal. You play as a woman named April Ryan, who is in the beginning of the game is starting to experience some cases of what you would call non-ordinary reality. She's having hallucinations, like midday hallucinations. Things are happening to her in her sleep, and they start, crossing over into reality and stuff like that. And she, in the course of all this happening, she's confronted by a man who lives in her building named Cortez, and he starts explaining to her that this is supposed to happen, and that she has a greater destiny. And without giving away too much, you basically find yourself pulled into a struggle between two different dimensions of the universe. One that exists with technology, and one that exists with magic. And they coexist on opposite sides of this barrier called the balance. And the main guts of the story is that something bad is happening to that balance, and there is a good chance that these two universes that were separated a long time ago for a good reason, there's a good chance they might smash into each other. And not physically, but just imagine it's kind of like the crossing the streams mentality, Mm-hmm. It's just bad if these two things meet. And it's just about her adventures, figuring out what's going wrong, figuring out the backstory behind everything. Because obviously, with any adventure game, you're thrust right into the middle of a pre-existing world, a pre-existing set of conditions, and a backstory that you don't know about yet. So, your first job is to figure out the backstory. Why are these two dimensions split? Why is this going on? And then you have to figure out, obviously, what you can do about it. In there, there's probably over 50 different locations in the game. There's tons of different landscapes and areas and situations and people that you interact with. The puzzles can get really creative, and by creative, they're really going to piss you off at points. The puzzle that I was talking about earlier when I talked about with the filing things and bringing them to one section of a building and getting them filed in triplicate and bringing them back. All in all, I think that section, when I finished it, when I looked through the hint through, probably took me about 7-8 minutes. The 4-hour battle that I had with the program before that, and it's, you might get to that point and find it really simple. It just depends on what type of person you are, if you're analytical towards certain circumstances or not. And so you might get to another point of the game where you have to rely on your assistant crow, which is literally a physical crow that you meet while you're in this other dimension of of magic and stuff called Arcadia. There's these two dimensions, Stark and Arcadia. And Stark is like, picture the U.S. and advance us maybe like 50 years and keep all the BS around too as far as politics and stuff like that goes. And that's pretty much what Stark is. The only thing is that it seems, they kind of hint in the game that it's maybe more of a European orientation, like possibly Britain took over again or something like that. Because a lot of the places they're named after European cities, or even like cities out of the Netherlands and stuff like that. So it's really interesting. Like there's like New Venice and there's like New Czechoslovakia and stuff like that, like weird stuff. But anyways, you've got this overlapping story that's just, involves hundreds of characters, just tons of locations, dozens of locations, a brilliant art style. And it not only involves this world that we live in, but it involves this other universe that is completely the opposite of what we experience. There's these beings called the Dragoon, or the Dryakin. I'm sorry, I'm getting my games mixed up. But they're it's supposed to sound like dragon, but they're called the Dryakin. And there's all these different levels of hierarchy that you need to go through to find out different things of information. And there's a point in the story where you wonder whether the Dryakin were actually real dragons at one time. And there's all sorts of stuff that, there's little side stories that make you forget about the main story. And then it pulls you back into the main story at certain points. And, like I said, I don't want to give away any spoilers. But as far as an all-inclusive game, and it's really near and dear to my heart because I like the fantasy genre, and I kind of like the steampunk and the cyberpunk genre too, and it's pretty much all three of those, smacked into one. And on top of that, the storyline, the characters, all that stuff, just created the perfect experience for me to just escape and to leave this planet for a little while and partake in an adventure that was not my own, but was still an adventure worth, taking part of. Yeah. And I think it saved me, man, in all honesty. It is, as weird as that may sound to somebody who doesn't play video games, you guys out there who have had a game change your life or at least pull you out of a tough spot, you know what I'm talking about, because it's a really hard thing to find, especially, such a soulless way to escape. It's a video game. It's in essence, it's program, it's numbers, it's code. But somebody has taken that and made it into so much more, and that's
well, it's just like a book. It's just ink and paper. That's all it is.
Yeah.
I'm sure people have been saved by, a book in the right place in the right time, or someone has been saved by a movie at the right place, or even a song. It sounds silly to people who haven't gone through something like this, but I'm sure if there are younger people listening to this, they probably think it's silly too, but it's right place, right time, right game, or I guess the wrong time and the wrong place and the right game. But
I think and this is getting into heavy philosophy here, guys. So, but I think the universe has a way of, at least providing you with maybe not even providing, but the universe has a way of allowing you to figure things out for yourself if you really want to. And whether that be through a video game or whether that be through music or reading a book or even creating something yourself. Like, for me, I quit drinking and I didn't know what to do with my time, so I created RetroRoadshow. And I think that's a pretty awesome thing to come out of, a former addiction.
I'd say so.
So,
I'd rather watch you do the roadshow than watch you drink any day.
Oh, hell yeah, me too. Dude, I'm a mess when I drink. It is not pretty. I think everything's a toilet. I can't even tell you all the places I've urinated in, but just as far as this game goes, the creator of this game, his name is Ragnar Turnquist, and you can check him out, ragnarturnquist.com. And he's made he works with Funcom. He's one of their, I believe, one of their chief developers or whatever. And like he worked on like the Age of Conan, that MMO or whatever. Mm-hmm. He's working on a new project that anybody who plays, you know what? Even if you don't play an MMO, if you play adventure games, have played adventure games, or MMOs or anything like that, check out this game. It's called The Secret World. There's not a whole lot of information on it, and I believe there's a website online. I think it's something like Dark Days Are Coming.
Sounds good.
It's a weird thing. It's kind of like it's just a weird website with a counter, and it's just counting down till the day that it's released. Only the counter's not in any language that exists on Earth, so it's kind of odd. It's all done in symbols and stuff. It's kind of like the counter from the Lost. I don't know if you've seen that series, but they've got the little timer, and all of a sudden starts doing weird things.
Was the last TV series I watched. I started watching it. Well, geez, I don't know how old Lost is. It's like 5 or 6 years old now, eh? When it started. Yeah. So I started watching it 5 or 6 years ago, and then I went to university, and I stopped watching TV. So that was like the only thing I would watch, and I'd watch it like every couple of months. I'd get the episodes off a friend, and then watch them. But, anyways, timer.
Yeah, I love. They actually there's a Lost adventure game.
Is it good?
I haven't played it. I've only seen it. I would imagine it's not that great because we have these stores by me called Half Price Books.
Yeah.
And they take surplus of things that don't sell well, especially video games, and they mark them down. So I mean, this game I could pick it up for like $5. It's a point and click adventure game, and it seems like it was made before. I think it was made before the third season came out, so it was made a while back, and it doesn't really add anything to the existing mythos of Lost. So,
because they couldn't. Yeah. So, yeah.
As a side note, but back to the Secret World. It's an MMO. It takes place in present day. It takes place in the present geography of things too. So everything in the game is as it is in the real world. So much so that there are points in the game where you have to look things up. You have to find out information about places and location. And the game designers have actually gone through the trouble to create websites that are, they've got meta tags and they're Google searchable. They've created websites, phone book entries, actual false records of people that you literally have to break out of the game and go into the real world and research. So it's almost a tab out philosophy of you're playing the game, there's in-game interaction, but there's also real world interaction to the point where they've talked about like having satellite radio stations. Like whereas like in, Grand Theft Auto, you've got like, the radio stations you've got in your car and stuff, in-game radio. Mm-hmm. They're talking about transferring things such as like in-game radio and conversations and stuff like that to radio, television, and the internet. So that you are literally taking part in not only a video game world MMO, but a real world MMO. And it's crazy. It just sounds absolutely ridiculous.
It sounds amazing if it goes through.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, the reason why I'm pumped about this is because this guy, Ragnar Turnquist, he has a way of achieving his visions that I'm really confident. The way he pulled off Longest Journey, the way he pulled off Dreamfall. Dreamfall wasn't exactly what all the Longest Journey like fans or cult followers had in mind, especially the Xbox version. But it kind of shows his willingness to continue the love story. He could have ended it all right there, and he didn't.
Yeah. He stated,
and it was kind of.
He stated, I think this past July, that the story was going to continue on. But I mean, he's probably working so hard in the Secret World, he probably hasn't even started.
Yeah, he said they've started pre-production on it, but the Secret World's still pretty far off. I don't expect to see something on that, like an actual release or anything like that, until probably mid-2012, somewhere around there. Yeah. And even then, I mean, people have been saying it for years, but also if you look at, the graphics and the gameplay and how this game looks and stuff like that, you can see that it's not going to be the next, it's not going to be Duke Nukem forever. No. People are going to have a hard time hating on this one as far as that goes, and I'm really excited about it. His next project after that is apparently Dreamfall Chapters, which is supposed to be a web-based playable. It's kind of like how they released the Strong Bad and the Back to the Future games in episodes. It's supposed to be monthly episodic content as opposed to a full game, which I kind of like and I kind of don't like.
Right.
Being that it's my favorite game of all time, I really want a physical copy.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not going to be thrilled if it's just online. I mean, I'll deal with it just because I want to continue the story. It's a hell of a story, and for that reason alone, I would tell your listeners and your viewers to go check out the game. At least give it like 2 hours. Play it for 2 hours and see if you're not sucked into it royally. And if you're not, well, then maybe we're just different kinds of people, and we can still party sometime and have a good time. But we just play different games. But yeah, for me, I'm mental about a good story, man. And Longest Journey has me hooked, 100%. This guy could make games for the next 30 years, or until he dies. And which is, an interesting thing that he said in an interview is that nobody's going to know how this series ends until he dies.
But then he's going to tell us, like in the
No,
book?
he's deliberately leaving it open-ended. Like he's making it so that he's the only one who truly knows.
But is he going to tell us after he dies?
We don't know. It's one of those. You have to read some of his interviews. His interviews are fantastic, but and if you go on his website, you can check that out. He has a very cryptic way of stating everything. And when you listen to this guy talk or even read his conversations, you can see how he is my favorite adventure game developer of all time, because he really has the mind for it, man. Even in real life, it seems like he knows the perfect way to just trickle out little pieces of a secret, just little tiny bits at a time, and just make it so intriguing so that you have to know what happens next. And I think that's where The Longest Journey really is effective in both games. Is the story is to a point where even if you're in like a minor subchapter of the story, you have to know what happens next. It's not just a game. Yeah, you can't just pick it up for 20 minutes and then... Actually, you probably could pick it up for 20 minutes and put it down, but if you've been playing for any longer than 20 minutes, like, I'd say kiss that day goodbye.
Yeah.
And, I can be a little obsessive about that, but yeah.
Oh, yeah, I know. I totally know what you mean, because that was something... I'll just mention quickly about Dreamfall is that my fiance and I, we played it together, and we'd start playing, and next thing we knew, it would be like 2-3 hours later, and we'd be like, okay, we need to go to bed. We both have stuff to do in the morning. And we're like, no, just a little bit longer, just a little bit longer.
Yeah.
Because we originally were like, okay, we're going to sit down, we're going to play for an hour, and then it's like triple the time, and we're like, ugh.
Yeah, no.
And then I'd come home from school, and my fiance would be like, do you have homework to do? I was like, yeah, I do. Oh, finish it. We gotta play Dreamfall. We gotta keep playing.
Yeah.
We never wanted to stop playing that game.
Nice.
We never wanted to stop. Did you like Dreamfall? Because I have a totally different perspective on it. Because I'd never played The Longest Journey, but my understanding of people who loved The Longest Journey, whenever they played Dreamfall, they were pretty let down.
It's, I didn't play Dreamfall till a long time after it came out. I played The Longest Journey when I was in college. I loved it. I searched high and low for a sequel then, and I didn't find it. Only until, several years later they released Dreamfall, and then, by that time I had kind of put it in the back of my mind.
Yeah.
It was, during that time, like I was telling you about all the stuff I had going on and stuff. Video games really didn't enter the equation very often. Especially, even now I'm kind of, I'm forming a new band, so I have a little bit of breathing room and stuff like that. But I've literally spent a good chunk of the last 7 years on tour and on the road, playing shows and concerts and stuff like that. And, touring with a number of different bands from, Psycho Stick, Power Man 5000, a whole ton of bands, Boba Flex, and just, doing a lot of fun stuff. But there's, we don't get a tour bus when you're an independent band.
Yeah.
You get like a tour Geo Metro. So, like, it's not really, you don't really have the space to, like, set up a PC or anything like that. Or, if you do, you don't really have a place to charge it or anything, or, bring in game consoles. So for a period of time, gaming kind of took a back seat. And, it still does when it boils down, because I love making music. And that's, I don't drink. I don't mess around with drugs or anything like that. I wasn't an angel in college, but like, to me, the stage is my drug. There isn't a drug on this planet that touches what a stage does to me. And so, given the opportunity, I will always choose a stage, or, a gig or something like that, as opposed to playing a video game. But, they come in close second. Yeah. And, it's cool. I don't know. Like, it's I basically didn't get to appreciate I didn't get to hate Dreamfall when everybody was hating it. Right. So I got to really be surprised and appreciative of the fact that when I kind of came out of that fog of, touring and stuff like that, and it was like, okay, we'll dig out the old Super Nintendo here, and oh look, we got the Atari. That's right, I used to play Atari, and started digging out these games. And then one day I came across my old Longest Journey case, and I was like, oh my god, I remember this, man. Like, and instantly I started thinking like, oh my god, did they ever make a sequel to this? And I looked back, I found out that Dreamfall existed, and I think at the point right there, I was just so appreciative of the fact that it was there.
Yeah, it existed, and you're like, yes.
Yeah, because that's all I can say right there. Is I was pumped. I was pumped that they actually released it, and that I could go that day and get it if I wanted to. Turns out it's one of the rarest games on the Xbox.
Really?
So I couldn't go get it that day.
I found it last year.
Yeah, like, Dreamfall.
I got it at GameStop last year for I think $10 or something. It was weird because I had just, or maybe it was a couple of years ago. I've only had my Xbox for a couple of years, and whenever I did, like, I went online and I searched and I made a list of these are the games I'll keep my eye out for. These are the games kind of maybe if I see them cheap. And I was on, I think it's GameStop, and what I went is I go through every single game, and anything that has a high score or looks interesting I look into. And I remember being in the GameStop, and I was like, oh yeah, Dreamfall. I thought I heard something good about that. I think a lot of people hated it, but I think some people really liked it. And like the cover looked interesting, and I was like, yeah, I'll pick this up. Why not? And man, I'm glad I did. Is it really that rare?
Yeah, when I was looking for it at first, I couldn't find one below 60 on eBay. And then I eventually found one for I think $8, and the dude, I was kind of pissed about it because he sent it to me in a DVD case. And like didn't have the manual or anything like that, just had like a printed label and all this stuff, but it, the game itself wasn't a pirate, and it was like, okay, well, for $8 I'm just glad to be able to play the game.
Now,
it's one of the rare occasions where I
sorry, keep going.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
I was saying I'm looking at the price right now, used average price $4.99, so I don't know where you were looking.
Are you sure that's Xbox?
Yeah.
What the hell? I mean, this was like, I don't know, 4 or 5 months ago, but
I don't know. Maybe this website's all messed up. Anyways, it's not important.
Yeah, it did. Well, I only got it eventually because my wife tracked it down, and maybe it's not as rare as maybe I was just running into a rough spell, but. For reasons unknown to me, I could not find a copy of this thing, so it took me a little while to get it. And I think, like I said before, I was just so appreciative at the time that I finally get to, in my mind, I thought I was going to, wrap up this game finally, wrap up the story and get some closure on it. Yeah. Little did I know, but I'm cool with that.
Opposite. It's like every episode of Lost in one.
It's kind of interesting. You'd have to go and read Ragnar's interviews or whatever, but he does kind of put an interesting spin on the end of the game and stuff like that, where it wasn't literally supposed to be like a cliffhanger or anything like that. It was supposed to be more of a symbolism of killing innocence or letting innocence die. And it was almost like the ending of that game apparently was kind of like his cry to the gaming industry and like the arts industry in general, which is kind of interesting when you look at it.
We're just going to be peed off that it sucks. Honestly,
yeah,
that's the one complaint that I have about that game is the ending. Like, to be technical, like the graphics are pretty good, the voice acting was really good. There's so many things to love about it. And then the last probably 10 or 15 minutes is like 2 hours of really bad stuff compressed. And you just feel like, really? Is that it? Like, if you go on YouTube and you go to any video that says anything about the Longest Journey, there will be comments about how the ending sucked. There will be. Almost guaranteed.
Yeah. It's one of those, I think it's one of those artsy endings where you really have to, pull meaning from it yourself. And, I find a lot of meaning in that ending. I don't find a ton of closure as far as the timeline of things goes. I just don't feel a whole lot of closure from the ending.
No.
But, I kind of like the fact that it can go on,
Oh, yeah, that's not the problem. The problem is that all this bad stuff, 2 hours of bad stuff, compressed into, 15 minutes. And honestly, my fiance and I, because we didn't know where we were in the game, because we never looked anything up. We honestly thought we were it felt like we could have had, another half of a game, easily. And then all this stuff started happening. And to people who've never played this game, don't be discouraged by the bad ending, because the bad ending is 15 minutes, and everything else is amazing. So still play it.
Yeah, you can kind of tell, I think, and this is just speculation on my part, because that's all it can be, because there's never been any, true statement towards this, but I think that they were faced with a choice, because they could either end it there, or they could keep it going. And...
Keep going.
Hello?
I'm here.
No, I think they were faced with a choice at that point that they could either end it right there, bring the story into finality and let it be done and have all be said and done, or they could keep it going. And I think that in order to keep it going, they maybe they didn't do it as well as they could have. It's hard because I feel guilty bad-mouthing the game that I love so much.
Oh, I know.
But I love the first one a lot more.
Oh, yeah.
The first one's a lot better, I'll say.
I think the second one, even though I haven't played the first one, I think it has the same problem that Broken Sword 3 has, is that it lost something to going to 3D, to true 3D.
Yeah, it definitely, in Dreamfall, I enjoyed the game. It does not have the same look or feel that the original one does. Even the NPCs like April Ryan, because you play the first game as her.
Yeah.
And that's she's a little too different and a little too indifferent as far as the fact that she's now this war leader almost, and
well, it could have.
She's got she's just so.
It could be just though, it has been a long time though between the two games though, hasn't it?
Yeah, that's where you kind of justify it. But just as far as how I enjoyed the characters, I enjoyed the original clueless April Ryan a lot better than I enjoyed the mysterious warrior figure April Ryan in Dreamfall.
But she's been replaced with another clueless girl, as Crow would say.
Yeah.
She has no idea.
Pretty
what she's
much.
doing.
I mean, and that's I don't know. At first, it was kind of like, when I was playing Dreamfall, I was like, well, why the hell? Why don't you just keep April as April? Why does it have to be why do you have to grab a new girl, put some other clueless girl into here? We have no idea who she is. And that's where there's some, it's not even that the continuity isn't there. It's just that there is no requirement for continuity in some cases, like Zoe Castro. It's there is and there isn't. I mean, he puts the stories together and stuff, but it leaves you wondering. Like, especially me, I played Longest Journey I don't know, I played it in like 2001, 2002. No, it must have been like 2003 or something like that. But and then I played Dreamfall like recently, like this last year.
Yeah, that's when I played
so
it too.
for me going into it, it was a little bit of okay, I'm trying to remember what's happening here. Since then, I've tried to go back and play, the Longest Journey. I've played it probably like 2 or 3 times. A couple of other times, but haven't finished it.
Did you find that, like, bad stuff aside, did you find that the ending made sense, at least, to Dreamfall? Because I didn't. Like, even looking at, like, the Wikipedia article and reading what the ending is, I still don't fully understand what happened. Because so much happened
That's where I think the whole ending right there at the end was a metaphor for how innocence was dying in the world, and I don't think it was, like, technically an ending to the story. I think it was more or less like April inside her own head. And I'm going to have to go back and play it probably soon here. Because now I'm getting all frustrated trying to remember what it I remember when watching it, I remember thinking, okay, what next? It doesn't put any finality on anything for me as far as, and it doesn't explain a whole lot about, at least not anymore. They explain more about the balance and stuff like that in the first Longest Journey.
The second one doesn't seem to have that much to do with that at all. I mean, people mention it, but...
Yeah, in Dreamfall, they just kind of tossed some stuff in there, and it really confused me. Mm-hmm. When you look at the two of them side by side, Longest Journey is by far the superior one.
I would probably agree with you, even though I've never played the Longest Journey.
Yeah, play it, man. I mean, seriously, it's so worth it. Especially, I've been trying to get my wife to play it with me, and she won't. It's not really her thing.
Well, my fiance and I want to, but looking at this 140 hours, it's like I don't want to play a really good game right now. I'm like playing other games because I don't have the time and dedication. Like for example, I started playing Harvest Moon 64. Not saying that's not a good game, but it's a game you can drop. I've started that probably a month ago, and I've played it maybe twice because I haven't had time. And if I did that with The Longest Journey, I feel like I would be cheating myself of something, so that's why I haven't started it.
Yeah, actually, I'm looking at this now. I guess on average, apparently, it runs about 140 hours. It's not 140 hours mandatory game time. I don't know where I got that from.
Well, nevertheless, I'm sure I would run at least 100 hours.
So. Yeah, there's about, I don't know, I'd say you'd probably run around 100 hours average. There's about a half an hour of cinematics altogether.
Right.
But yeah, just the puzzles and stuff like that, storyline.
One thing I will say about the ending, though, and to people listening who haven't played, this is a huge spoiler alert. So plug your ears for about about 30 seconds. So spoiler alert. Not you!
Oh, I've played it. Okay, I got it.
I actually really like how the main character doesn't win.
Yeah.
How Zoe is, in the end of the game, she's in a coma. And she is dying. And she's like, well, I guess I didn't do it. The whole world's gonna go to crap. I actually like that. I don't know why, but I like it. Maybe because she's so okay with it, I'm so okay with it, but I like it because it's a change. It's a change of pace. When was the last time you played a game where the ending was like, well, you failed? You know?
It's cool. Like, I think it's cool too because they don't really say, like, no screen comes up and says Zoe's dead.
No.
You know, so I mean, the thing is they go through this big metaphorical thing at the end where she's talking to, what does she think it is, her little sister? Or something like that. It's basically, it's a portion of herself, and I think it's named Innocence, isn't it?
I'm not sure. I don't remember.
It's hard to remember the specifics. She's talking to the little girl from The Grudge, basically.
Yeah.
And they're in this white house that's all hacked to pieces and stuff. It's like somebody just decided to use an eraser tool on half the house. And they're talking about how it's okay to die, or how it's okay to go away or go to sleep. And she's literally like telling this part of, I believe she's telling her innocence that it's okay to leave. Like, of all the things that she's learned in this longest journey or whatever, that she's saying, like, okay, it's okay for my innocence to die now. And in that, you know, I could see she could become, like, you know, another April Ryan as far as, you know, whatever.
I don't think she will. But,
no?
Well, I think she's dying.
I think the very fact that there's... I'm trying to think, man.
Now we've played that ending again.
Yeah.
But that's something I liked about the ending. I'm going to say that. And
yeah, it does have very much like the first one, and I won't give away the first ending for you, but the first one has a twist to it at the ending that it is one of those, like, and excuse my profanity here, but it is a holy shit moment. The last few seconds of The Longest Journey, holy shit. It ends awesomely. They could have ended it right there with The Longest Journey, and it would be complete, total, everything would be done. Dreamfall was just, it was an expansion of the universe. It was a welcome expansion because The Longest Journey was just so good. That'd be like ending Back to the Future at the first movie.
yeah.
Like, yeah, you don't need 2 and 3, but aren't you glad they're there? You know? Maybe not.
Another story for another day.
True. But, yeah, the first one just, that will always have a very special place in my heart. The entire story, the way it picks you up, it brings you into the story, and then the way it leaves you at the end. You can't help but just smile ear to ear, you know, at the end of it. It's too cool. It may seem very cliche when you do get to the end and you see it and you think, like, oh, I see what he says here, you know, everything comes around and stuff like that.
Love does conquer all. Hooray. The power of friendship again.
Yeah, see, it's even not as cheesy as that, man. I won't spoil it for you, but it's a good one, man. Like, it's definitely, it's good. It's one of those, like at the end of an M. Night Shyamalan movie, and maybe that's not the best example, but something happens that makes you look back at the entire experience and go, whoa,
right,
you know?
Right. No,
it's one of those things, and it's very well executed. And the way that they do that in The Longest Journey makes me kind of appreciate what they did in Dreamfall as well. Right. I think they did it better in The Longest Journey. I'm not going to lie. You know, it'd be great to say that the sequel, you know, one of the rare occasions that the sequel actually outstripped the original, but, you know, it doesn't quite happen. It's not a bad sequel. You know, the ending to Dreamfall, I get the impression I probably was a little bit more content with it than you were, but I've also gotten another 140 hours.
Horrible. we just sat there and we looked at each other and we're like, maybe after the credits. This can't be it. This is horrible. It's the worst ending to any game I've ever played. It's that bad. Maybe, but again, this is I don't know. This is just me. Someone else might find it's great, but I didn't like it.
It's a little too artsy for its own good. Like, and I think you know, part of the problem is that it should have been a 2-disc game. Like, as long as the damn thing was.
It should have been
still
longer. Because
Yeah.
they were leading up. Near the ending, they were leading up to something, and then
Yep.
it just hit the fan, and it was all over. We'll say
Yep.
that. Because, honestly, it was a shock. Maybe if you know what's coming, but we honestly thought we were like 2/3 way through the game. Alright, so, jeez, where were we?
We were talking about the worst ending ever.
Worst ending ever. Moving along. We'll talk positive, because people are going to think I hate this game. I love this game. Me and my fiance, it's probably one of our favorite games we've played in a couple years. I don't know if it's probably one of our top 50 as well. And this is coming from somebody who hasn't played the original ones. And my fiance, I think this is probably her first adventure game or adventure style, because it's not really a true adventure game. Maybe not. It's like it's one of those weird, like, this is an adventure game, we're putting it in 3D and it's going to change kind of, but it kind of still have the essence of the old one. It's kind of
It's
weird.
like when they say a movie was inspired by true events. Like, this game was inspired by real adventure games.
Yeah.
Like,
yes. It's a very
but
good
it's about as close as you can pull off on an Xbox too. I mean,
I guess.
Short of actually introducing a mouse and keyboard.
That reminds me, you said the Xbox version sucks. You said people hated the game, especially the Xbox version. Why did you say that? What's wrong with the Xbox version?
It just seemed like it was graphically inferior. And I think, like, the thing when you think about how well it sold on the Xbox, like, there's certain, people didn't buy the Xbox for adventure games.
No.
They bought them they mainly bought them for, first-person shooters and just, racers and stuff like that. I mean, there's really, Xbox in general isn't very RPG heavy or anything like that. I mean, there's like Fable.
Yeah, I'm looking at my stack of Xbox games now, and it definitely stands out.
Yeah, there's a few, don't get me wrong, there's good RPGs on there, like Morrowind. I mean, Knights of the Old Republic, that's another good one.
And Morrowind's another tale for another day.
Yeah,
I freaking love Morrowind.
But I mean, like, I think that it's just like when they released, oh crap, now I'm trying to think. They released Myst on a game console, and I'm struggling to remember what it was.
3DO?
Maybe it was the 3DO.
PS1, I'm not sure.
They've released Myst. I believe they've tried to release Myst on several consoles, and it's a novelty item, more or less. It's not really something that you go to a console for that type of experience, and I think that's just one of the unfortunate side effects of the adventure gaming industry is it's kind of PC specific until you get into something like the Wii, where you actually have a cursor that you can begin to point around with, some accuracy and being able to be leisurely about it as well.
Right.
Like, it's kind of tough to get that into a console experience. It's like if you ever played Terminator 2, the arcade game on the Sega Genesis, it's awesome with the Menacer. It sucks with the controller. And it's one of those things where it can be a real bummer of an experience if you're playing it with a controller and stuff, which they made it work pretty well for the Xbox, I'll admit.
I didn't find it was like clunky or anything, or
I think it's when you compare it, it's got so many different elements in it. It's like you're not sure whether it's an adventure game or whether it's a open world Grand Theft Auto type game, because there is somewhat of a semblance of combat in the game, even though it's.
I understand how people could not like the combat, but I didn't mind it because there wasn't that much.
Yeah, there's very little of it in there, but
all I can think of whenever I think of the combat is, oh, you kick like a mule. One person you have to fight, and that's all he says, like 6 times.
And then, don't you beat up some lady in an office building at one point too?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think that's like the first fight you get into.
Yeah,
you gotta
right at the
smack
desk.
the crap out of that lady. Yeah.
But yeah, I don't. Oh man, I should start talking good about this game because I love it. It's like what we liked about it is like overall, like I felt like the game as a whole, even though it had like really like dark and dreary parts, I felt the game was like overall like really like warm and homey, but it still felt like this like grand adventure, like the real word of the real meaning of epic, you know.
Yeah.
And there was like all like these little cool little corners to explore that they actually put stuff there for you to find, not items, but just locations that you could just go and look at. And
you know, and I think that's where I find the most of my enjoyment out of Dreamfall. Is I played The Longest Journey. I loved The Longest Journey. You know, sadly, it was a somewhat limited game. You know, it was an expansive game. It's huge. But as far as like, you couldn't wander into the background and, you know, explore other areas. You'd be standing at the edge of a cliff looking over this expansive city. You can't go into the city.
No.
And Dreamfall was a little bit more open world. It allowed the true fans of the game to go and experience some of the fan service that they never really got out of the first game.
Yeah.
So that's probably where I found, because I will admit, like, you know, towards the beginning of the game, I was just in fanboy land. I was like, I'm finally continuing the story for Longest Journey, and you know, there's Stark and there's Arcadia, but then there's the land of winter, and I'm like, what is this? You know, like, this is crazy, and April Ryan's still alive, and all this crap's going on. So for me, I definitely got wrapped up in that awfully quick. It definitely tapered out, you know, towards like the you know, what you would think would be like the middle of the game or whatever. But you know, it wasn't so much hype anymore, and you can really, I think at that point, the hype had carried me into the state where I was going to enjoy the game regardless.
Yeah.
And you know, also being the fact that I didn't even know the game existed until a little while ago.
Yeah.
Just saying something, because it's, you know, the prequel to it is my favorite game of all time, and I didn't even know there was a damn sequel to it. But yeah, I was just so excited to get my hands on it and to be playing it. And I think, you know, half of my enjoyment was, you know, just bouncing in my chair, like, you know, I'm playing Longest Journey. And
even though you weren't April?
Yeah, that part was disappointing. I think that was probably my most disappointed aspect, is when I started the game out and I was somebody else, and I was just like, who is this, and why am I talking to a robotic monkey?
I love Zoe, though. You know why I love her? I love her because she's so normal. Like,
yeah.
There is nothing... I mean, there's kind of near the end, but for the most part, she is completely average. There's nothing, like, really special about her. Whereas, like, usually you play a video game and you're, like, you know, you're a ninja, you're, like, this person with, like, these special powers, or you're super intelligent, or you're, you know, wizard, you know, you're somebody, you're something, or at least you very quickly become something. Whereas in this game, for most of the game, you're just a person. You're just Zoe Castillo. That's all you are. And you don't shoot lightning out of your hands. You can't double jump. You can't do any of this. You're just this completely average person who just graduated and is in a slump in their life. That's all they are.
That's kind of the charm of the first one too. Is you're April Ryan. She's an art student. That's it.
Oh man.
You're April Ryan. You're an art student, and you know, as the game moves along, the only special thing about you is that you can move between these two different worlds.
But even Zoe couldn't do that without help.
Yeah.
So she was even less special.
Yeah. So, but even still, like they definitely portray that. And actually, now that you bring it up, it's almost like they took that aspect of the first game and they were like, okay, how can we make the main character more normal? And
she can live at home with her dad.
Yeah, and that's the only thing that you could do. In the first one, you're playing a girl who, you know, has moved out of home and is in a new city, is all alone, barely has any friends, and you're an art student, and you're having nightmares, and that's about it. And so it's really cool because, you know, although it's a female and we're obviously not female, it's a position that you could very easily place yourself in.
Oh, especially since I was probably half a year away from graduating myself, and I was just like, that's gonna be me soon. Except hopefully I don't get sucked out of Stark.
Yeah.
But I thought she was so normal, but she was still like extremely like charming and relatable, and like I loved hearing her talk, you know? And I thought that for me, that was really, and for us I should say, for me and my fiance, what we loved about it is that like the characters were all so extremely charming. And, like, everyone. Like, I asked my fiance what her favorite characters are, and guess what she said. Just guess.
I'm trying to think. Like, Zoe and, what's the robot? Is it Bomber or
Bonkers.
Boomer? Bonkers, that's what it is.
Bonkers, yeah.
It's been a minute.
She said, like, the club owner, the girl at the coffee shop. It was just, like, all, like, these, like, completely minor characters that you see for just, you know, a couple minutes, and they don't actually have a part in the story. But
I like that, now that you say that, I like that smart-ass kid towards the end of the story. God, what am I? I'm trying to think of what his name is. He's like, I don't know if you play as him for a little while, or...
Kid?
Maybe not. God, I think it's a part where you're trying to get into some pharmaceutical company. I may be getting my games crossed here.
Blonde guy?
Maybe. I seem to remember
it. The only kid. The kid with the ticket.
Maybe that's it. I don't know. He was just kind of a little smartass is all I remember. And I just remember like the whole time thinking like, yeah, keep being a smartass.
But I loved them all. Like every single character almost. Like there was a couple that, you know, guard number 1, you know, or guard number 2, they were kind of bland, but like almost every single character, I love them. Like my favorite characters are Wonkers, who's a robot that just sits in your room, and Crow, because, well, he's Crow. He's like, his dialogue is hilarious because he's so, because he's a crow, he doesn't know much about like what's normal, and he has no restraint in what he says. And that's why I love him. And also, my probably one of my favorite characters is Theoretically Blind Bob. Or Theoretically for short. Remember Theoretically Blind Bob?
I don't think so.
No? Okay, remember when you first go to the winter area?
Yeah.
He's sitting outside, and you have to get him Miss Mullen's Mixed Spices Mulled Wine.
Yeah, I remember the Miss Mullen's Mixed Spices, the mulled wine.
He's the beggar.
Because I remember when, like a little bit after we played that, we went and picked up some mead from the local liquor store, and it had the mulling spices in it. And I remember like saying, "Oh, this is like the mulled wine and stuff." So we made it up, and it was good, man.
You know what we did is we had never heard of mulled wine, and we're like, this beggar who wants this mulled wine makes it sound so good, and this game makes it sound so good, that we went online and we looked up how to make mulled wine, and then we made mulled wine. And it is good. But it's just like, it's stuff like this that we're talking about, like these little things in the game which don't really mean anything, but make us want it. We go into the real world and we make mulled wine just because we heard about it in this game, you know?
Yeah.
Like, it's these little touches that it made me love the game. And Blind Bob. I love Blind Bob.
Well, and even like the city atmosphere of both games, in all honesty, I mean, Longest Journey and Dreamfall, I want to live in that city. Even though it's got, I think
Arcadia?
No, New Venice.
In Stark?
Yeah, in Stark.
Yeah, it's nice.
I mean, it's just like, you know, it's got its problems and stuff like that, but that's how I envision the future to be like. And it is nice. Cool. Yeah. Because like as you're taking in this whole atmosphere, it's not even that like, you know, you like the characters or you like the way the graphics look or anything like that. It's like you can really just picture yourself, like you can just put yourself there. Yeah. You know, like, wow, this is some place that I'd really like to hang out for a while. And it's like, well, you're in luck, my friend, because we just so happen to have created a game in which you can hang out here for a while. And yeah, it's got a very, very personable atmosphere, or it's got a very distinct personality, and all the little things in it really, really add to that. And makes you really appreciate, because you can see games that don't have that in them.
Most of them.
Yeah, even still, good games and stuff like that just don't have...
Yeah, it's not a bad thing.
Yeah, but it's like... Games. You almost have to like marvel at the creator's ability to put such, minute details into there. Mere character spots, literally. Like, they say when you get a scratch on something, it just adds character. Mm-hmm. Well, this guy, I mean, he put infinite amounts of little scratches on the surface of this thing that just add character to it. And I think that's why it's such an enveloping experience, because you can associate yourself with it, and you can feel yourself being there, or at least being there one day, and as ridiculous as the whole concept of, two worlds coexisting, or even three worlds now, with winter and stuff like that. Like, as crazy as it all is, it really gives you that sense with all the little details and the things that relate to us in our day-to-day life, that it could happen. You know?
It's the fact that it's so close to reality and yet so different is what it is. Like New Venice. What is it, New Venice? Is that what it's called?
I believe it's called New Venice.
Like, that place is pretty normal, and it's pretty close to reality, but it's also so different and so nice that you want to be there. And you believe that it could one day exist.
Let's see. Yeah, I don't know. I thought it said something on the box about New Venice, but I guess I'm wrong.
It's New something.
Yeah. Or was it maybe New Prague?
I don't know.
Venice or Prague? I don't know. Maybe I live by New Prague. I'm getting all lost. Here we go. I'm getting sucked into the game again. I don't know where I am or anything like that.
Now I just want to go make some mulled wine. But it's not cold enough. I feel like it has to be cold like winter does.
Yeah. It's it depends on, like, some people like warm mead, which is when you use mulling spices. At least around here we use them in mead, which is it's a wine made from honey.
Right.
And so it's kind of like gives it kind of like a spiced tea, like a chai almost taste to it or something like that.
Right.
But it's obviously it's markedly differently too. So I can't really think of how to describe it. It's got like a hint of cinnamon in it.
Oh, she lives in Casablanca.
Is it what?
Yeah, I'm looking it up on Wikipedia. Zoe Castillo.
Oh,
20
Zoe.
Year-old live in Casablanca. 2,219.
Okay, I wonder where April Ryan lives. But yeah, it's those little things, man. It definitely, even Wonkers. I mean, you look at that, and that
I love Wonkers.
We could have a toy like that in 5 years.
We could.
I mean, no prop, dude. We had a toy like that 20 years ago. Teddy Ruxpin. Right there.
It just sucked compared to Wonkers.
Yeah, pretty much.
My fiance found Wonkers creepy, which I can understand, but I thought he was amazing. I loved him.
I thought he was creepy when he was broken. Like,
I don't remember him being broken.
I think there's a point where he's broken or something like that, or when she takes out his memory chip or something like that and puts it in another.
Oh yeah, it's kind of sad.
I'm trying to think. I thought he was creepy when that happened.
Well, either way, he's still a great character, even though he's just a purple monkey in your room. I still love him.
Yeah.
Which is, I don't know. It's just, I think it's really what it is. And again, we're going back to this immersion thing. It's all about, not all, but it's what makes these games special, and probably what makes you love them is the immersion. You can immerse yourself in one of these games, unlike any other game genre.
Well, and when we talk about, I mean, you've just said it yourself, like at how well these games do at, or at least the game that you've played does at immersing, you in an alternate universe and getting you really involved to the point where you would think about it, when you're not even involved in the game. You're not even playing, and you're thinking about what you and Zoe did last night, trying to think of the puzzle at hand or whatever, and then think about this new game that dude is coming out with, Ragnar Turnquist. He's coming out with the Secret World, and
I have to look this up, because if it's
have to.
If it's not if it's necessary. It doesn't have to be anything like it. It doesn't have to be anything like The Longest Journey or Dreamfall, but I feel like because this guy has because it's his creation, I feel like it's going to be special in some way. maybe a completely different way, but it's going to be special.
Well, the way that it's laid out is there are, how do I say this? There's three classes of, or races or whatever you want to call them. There's the Templar class, there's the Illuminati class, and then there is the Dragon class. Basically, each of these classes are, distinct secretive organizations that control the fate of the world, and it's up to you to, choose which one you're part of. And in this MMO world, there's, I believe the Illuminati headquarters is, I don't know where that is. I think the Templars is based out of somewhere in Europe.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
London or something like that. And the Dragon is the most mysterious race of all, and it's
Canada.
No,
Northwest
nobody knows.
Territories.
There is no base for the Dragon. The Dragon is a sect of people that pop up periodically through history in order to stir the pot in a certain direction. So it's very vague as to what the Dragon do. It seems like it's a secret society of secret societies that only pops up when, the circumstances are right. And it's very weird, so I'm kind of interested in that. But it's this whole world and some sort of world conflict too, or something like that. And it's called the Secret World. It's like, New York is New York, but what you don't realize is that while you're walking down the street, there's a group of guys battling like zombies and, evil demons in an alley. And it's very much that, it's got that twin worlds kind of atmosphere where there's a surface world and then there's this, darker undertone to what is actually happening.
Right.
And it's really, I may sound like I'm being real cryptic about it, man, but that's all I know.
You know.
Yeah, this is all, and I've done quite a bit of research on it, and all I know is that there's these three classes. There is combat in the game. There's some alpha gameplay footage up on YouTube that I've taken a look at. It doesn't look that fantastic compared to, it looks like great graphics and stuff like that, but it doesn't look like anything that, new MMOs aren't doing already.
Yeah.
But then listening to this guy talk about it and watching the trailers and stuff like that, I can't help but get the feeling that he has so much and knowing what he's done in the past. I can't help but feel that he's got much grander plans for this, and I don't do online gaming really. With the exception of the occasional Mario Kart or something like that, or I'll jump on Steam every once in a while and play a game or two. I've been playing Spiral Knights lately, but I don't really do online gaming, so for me it's not.
For us, it's not going to be old hat.
Yeah. It's definitely not going to be old hat, and I don't think it's going to be old hat for a lot of people because from what it sounds like, this game contains no armor. That's another clue that he's given. There is absolutely no armor. There's a set of over 500 different skill sets that everybody, no matter what their class is, race, or abilities, they can learn all of these skill sets, so nobody can really gain an unfair advantage over the other. It's more or less about information, and they've hinted that there's going to be points where people are actually going to have to meet outside of the game in order to figure out what they're supposed to do next for their secret society.
Nice.
So, it sounds like it could be amazing, or it could fall flat on its face. It could be too awesome for its own good.
There.
Oh yeah.
Well, I'll have to look into it because I don't know anything about it, and I doubt my computer could run it, but I'll definitely look into it.
Yeah, there's no way. I pretty much am when this game comes out, if it comes out in all the glory that I expect it to, I fully expect to be buying a PC for this purpose, and which is saying something because I've very, very rarely bought PCs. The only other time I bought a PC for a game was when Deus Ex came out, and that's just a random title too, but that has a really cult following as well.
Yeah, I've heard a lot about it.
It's a first-person shooter from either end of last millennium or the beginning of this one, and from around that time, you play like a super soldier that has biomechanical augmentations that You know, your arm has like you have heat sensor goggles built into your eyeballs. Like it's a lot of, you're like the Terminator, I guess, is basically in a nutshell what it is. And that's the last game that I bought a PC for. So it's definitely saying something, because I don't buy new stuff very often, man. You know me, I got the whole junkyard one. So
yeah, for sure. All right, so I'm sure you have to go, and I have to go. Going 3 hours here of talking. I was like, yeah, maybe we'll talk over an hour. I'm not too sure. Like, I'm looking at my list of things to talk about, and it's like not even a page. I'm using like really big spacing and stuff. I'm like, maybe we'll talk for a little bit. And now we're just like 3 hours, and I'm sure we could probably keep going for another hour, but
probably, dude. I told you I like my adventure games.
Yeah, which is why you are the first person with me on gaming favorites, because I expect many episodes to not be this long, but to be this, I don't know, to be this good, because I'm talking to people it's their favorite, you know, and I don't even need to be a fan of it. I mean, I'm hoping to get someone on who's a big fan of Final Fantasy. I'm not, but I'm willing to sit there. And I want to talk to them about it because it's their favorite. So,
yeah, I mean, like, you know, just like you and I definitely sense that we see different endings for Dreamfall, or we see different concepts in the endings for Dreamfall. I think you might see things a tad bit differently once you play The Longest Journey.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It's I guess I can't really think of anything specific in The Longest Journey that you would like look at and be like, oh, well, now the ending to Dreamfall makes sense. But I don't know. I'll just say as a loose comment, you may find that if you play the original and then go back and play Dreamfall, or at least, you know, go back, because you can watch like all the cinematics on YouTube too in like a half an hour or something. But
yeah,
just go back and watch the cinematics. You might find more of that. It seems familiar territory if you've played the first one.
Right.
Like, I will say the first one ends a lot better though.
Okay.
Like, when it ends, you can have a tear or two of happiness and be satisfied with the whole experience. How do I say this without blowing it? It gives you the impression that there could have been more things that happened within the storyline that have not been talked about.
Right.
And that's what Dreamfall is. Dreamfall is one of those things. Like, The Longest Journey actually ends after Dreamfall. So, maybe not right after Dreamfall, but it definitely ends after the events in the timeline of Dreamfall. Unless somehow people can go back in time in this universe, and he just hasn't revealed that to us yet. But The Longest Journey seems like when it ends, you're at the last spot that at least April Ryan can be telling her story. If it gets told from somewhere else beyond that, it has to be by somebody else. So,
right.
But yeah, any more and I'll blow it for you, so I won't say any more.
Yeah, don't. I don't want to ruin potentially one of the better games I've played.
Yeah, it is totally worth it. There's always a semblance of, like, you know, a sense of disappointment at the end of something that builds itself up to be so epic. It's like the ending of Lost, man. Like, it wasn't what I wanted, and it wasn't how I would have done it, but I'm cool with it.
I'm happy it's over, as bad as that sounds.
Pretty much. I could deal with some, like, spin-off series, like Hurley running the island, but that's... You know, they've got a little 20-minute episode of him running the island on the DVD set, too, so... I don't know. I just like fan service, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, just kind of... It works good for me.
Okay, so we got 30 seconds left before it becomes 3 hours. So,
okay.
It's been really awesome talking to you, and I'm really happy that we finally got together to do this, and hopefully this will not be the first and last episode of the Gaming Favorites. Hopefully I get to talk to more people, or maybe I'll talk to you again about something. Who knows?
Yeah, dude. By all means, it was a blast for me, and I would definitely love to do it any other time you want to. Provided I can remember the next time. 'Cause, yeah, I don't. Your listeners probably don't know this, but I damn near stood you up today. So,
but here we are, making up for it.
Yeah,
with lost time.
But, yeah, man. If you ever want to get into anything else, I'm always good for a good chat, as you can see. And it's definitely a pleasure getting together with you after all this time. You were probably the first dude I ever talked to from YouTube, and it's nice to have it. At least our story is coming full circle, you know?
Yeah.
Nobody's in a coma and in a half-constructed house killing off their innocence or whatever you want to say.
Yeah, for sure. All right, well, it's been a real pleasure talking to you. And guys, this has been Silver Mongoose Videos, and remember, classic gaming never gets old.